Soul, the hidden sword palace's nascent soul, appears too. In the air, the shadow of a middle-aged man, who was hundreds of feet tall, looked in the direction of the state of Yan. He spat out a few words coldly. "How dare you kill cultivators of my Lu family? You're courting death." As soon as he finished speaking, the middle-aged man, who was hundreds of feet tall, immediately turned into a beam of light and flew towards the state of Yan. His name was Lu Yuanchen, an old nascent soul ancestor of the Lu family at the 3rd level. Although his nascent soul was that of the yellow, he was still not to be underestimated. Just now, he received a report from a junior that the soul tablets of Lu Xingyun and 4 to 5 golden cores had been extinguished at the same time. This immediately infuriated the few nascent soul ancestors of the Lu family, including him. Lu Yuanchen decided that he would make the trip himself. He wanted to see who had the guts to kill so many golden cores of the Lu family. In the blink of an eye, half a month passed. Just as Jiang Chengxuan and Shen Ruyan were about to enter the state of Yu, an extremely terrifying aura suddenly appeared in their divine senses. Jiang Chengxuan and Shen Ruyan narrowed their eyes as they recognized this person's identity and cultivation. If they were wrong, the person who came should be a nascent soul cultivator of the Lu family. Unexpectedly, they were still caught by the other party in the end. There was nothing they could do. Firstly, nascent soul cultivators were fast to begin with. Secondly, in order to chase after the murderer, Lu Yuanchen took out a level 5 flying treasure from the Lu family's treasure vault. With the help of the level 5 flying treasure, his speed was brought to another level. At this moment, a jade pendant on his body suddenly emitted a red light. This was a treasure that could be used to track down the murderer who killed his clansmen. It was called the blood curse chasing Jade. A cold killing intent flashed in his eyes as he shouted, "How dare you ***ards kill my people, die." His voice was rumbling loud. In an instant, the terrifying sound wave turned a small mountain in front of him into dust. At the same time, a yellow light suddenly gushed out from above his head. Looking closer, it was actually a huge sack. Buzz, buzz, buzz. An imprisoning force instantly erupted from the sack. Jiang Chengxuan and Shen Ruyan, who were in the air, felt that their flying speed began to decrease visibly under the influence of the sack. At the same time, a pressure that was like Mount Tai appeared on their bodies at the same time, wanting to press them to the ground. Break! Boom! At this moment, a surging heat wave suddenly rose from Jiang Chengxuan's body. His body instantly became 300 feet tall. Crack! At the same time, around him and Shen Ruyan, the sound of eggshells breaking could be heard as the phantom of a dragon and an elephant appeared behind him. There was a bang. The yellow sack that had already landed on their heads was actually sent flying back by Jiang Chengxuan's explosive power. Seeing this scene, especially the powerful strength that was completely different from that of a golden core cultivator on Jiang Chengxuan, Lu Yuanchen's eyes widened. No wonder Xingyun and the others died in your hands. One didn't expect your body-tempering cultivation to have already reached such a height. Lu Yuanchen suddenly said coldly, "If I'm not wrong, your strength is not much inferior to some newly advanced nascent soul cultivators." As he spoke, the killing intent in his eyes intensified. "But you shouldn't have killed the cultivators of my Lu family. I have no choice but to send you to accompany them." As soon as he finished speaking, a 1,000-foot-tall mountain suddenly appeared in his hand. This was his intrinsic Dharma treasure, the 1,000 Mountains. It was said that more than 1,000 mountains had been refined and merged into one. Moreover, they weren't just ordinary mountains. Instead, they were spiritual mountains with rich spiritual chi. He had once used this Dharma treasure to smash a cultivator at the first level of the nascent soul into paste. It was also after this that his intrinsic Dharma treasure, the 1,000 Mountains, gradually began to become famous. The fact that he took out this treasure proved that he really wanted to kill Jiang Chengxuan and his wife. Boom! As Lu Yuanchen threw the 1,000 Mountains. Within a radius of 100 miles, the sky was covered in a shadow. At this moment, if it were an ordinary golden core cultivator, they would probably be instantly crushed into meat paste by the force. Even Jiang Chengxuan felt some pressure on his body. This was something he had never felt since he began cultivating body-tempering technique. It seemed like this time he really had to. Jiang Chengxuan suddenly took a deep breath. Just as he was about to go all out, a sword light suddenly flashed over from the distant sky. The sword light was not eye-catching at first. However, in the blink of an eye, the sword light expanded into 1,000 feet long. There was a loud bang. Lu Yuanshan's 1,000 Mountain was sent flying 100 miles by that sword light. This sudden turn of events stunned Jiang Chengxuan and Shen Ruyan. Lu Yuanshan's pupils constricted. He stared in the direction of the sword light and suddenly spat out a few words. Earthwalker Sword Sovereign. Earthwalker Sword Sovereign. Earthwalker Sword Sovereign of the Hidden Sword Palace. Jiang Chengxuan and Shen Ruyan's hearts skipped a beat. They immediately turned around. Not far from them, a figure was flashing over. This person looked to be in his 40s. He was dressed in yellow and looked ordinary. He carried an ordinary-looking sword on his back. It was said that this person used to be a very inconspicuous disciple in the Hidden Sword Palace. What he cultivated was also the most basic sword technique called the Earth-Walking Sword Technique. For hundreds of years, he devoted himself to this sword technique. However, in the end, he relied on this Earth-Walking Sword Technique to defeat many geniuses in the sect. At 4 years old in the Violet Palace, he successfully condensed a golden core. In the next 300 years, he successfully transformed his golden core into a nascent soul. Moreover, it was said that the nascent soul he condensed was not yellow. Currently, his cultivation had reached the 4th level of the nascent soul. At this moment he looked at Lu Yuanshan, whose expression had turned extremely ugly. An innocuous smile appeared on his ordinary face. Fellow Taoist Lu, I'm really sorry. Young fellow Jiang and his wife have a deep relationship with the Hidden Sword Palace. I hope that fellow Taoist Lu can let them go on account of the Hidden Sword Palace. What do you think? As soon as he said that, Lu Yuanshan's eyebrows twitched. The veins on his forehead bulged. It was obvious that he was extremely furious. However, the person who said that was Earthwalker Sword Sovereign. No matter how angry he was, he had to suppress the anger in his heart and say to Earthwalker Sword Sovereign in a low voice, Fellow Taoist Earthwalker, you might not know, but these 2 people killed many golden cores of my Lu family, including a false nascent soul cultivator. You want me to let them go, but how am I going to give my family an explanation? Trip to the Sky Plains. Upon hearing Lu Yuanshan's words, Earthwalker Sword Sovereign's innocuous smile disappeared. Fellow Taoist Lu, I believe you do know very well why your clansmen were killed. Since you already know, why are you still telling me this? How about I use the sword in my hand to give you an explanation? As he spoke, an earthen yellow sword appeared in his hand. The sword looked ordinary, like any ordinary sword in the mortal world. However, Jiang Chengxuan, Shen Ruyan, and even Lu Yuanshan naturally wouldn't think so. Lu Yuanshan's expression changed drastically, and he said angrily, Fellow Taoist Earthwalker, what do you mean? In a literal sense. As soon as he finished speaking, he did not give Lu Yuanshan time to react. There was a buzz. A huge mountain made of sword qi suddenly appeared in the air and pressed down on Lu Yuanshan. Fellow Taoist Earthwalker you. Lu Yuanshan wanted to curse in his heart. He looked easy to talk to, but in the end, he drew his sword without a word. Helpless, Lu Yuanshan could only take out his intrinsic Dharma treasure, the 1,000 Mountains. There was a rumble. The 1,000 Mountains collided with the mountain formed by the sword qi. A deafening bang immediately erupted in the sky. Waves of energy ripples spread out. Jiang Chengxuan and Shen Ruyan were agape in shock. In fact, even they did not expect the seemingly friendly and honest Earthwalker Sword Sovereign to be so irritable. The battle between nascent soul cultivators would surely cause a huge commotion. Soon, many beams of light rose into the sky above the state of Yu. However, without exception, they all watched from afar. No one dared to approach easily. How could one casually join in the battle between high-level cultivators? Boom! Finally, after fighting for more than 10 moves, Lu Yuanshan flew away in a sorry state. In the sky, his angry voice echoed. Earthwalker, I will not forget what you've done today, just you wait, I will get back at you. Hearing Lu Yuanshan's words, Earthwalker Sword Sovereign couldn't help but sneer. His figure flashed, and he appeared in front of Jiang Chengxuan and Shen Ruyan. Greetings, Senior Earthwalker. Jiang Chengxuan and Shen Ruyan immediately bowed. However, Earthwalker smiled and waved his hand. You don't have to be so polite with me. I've already heard about you from Senior Brother Xuan Yang. He also specially instructed me to take care of you when it's needed. At this point, Earthwalker paused for a moment before continuing. Speaking of which, I actually saved Lu Yuanshan's life by interfering between the two of you. Unfortunately, not only did he not thank me, but he also wanted to take revenge on me. Jiang Chengxuan was speechless. Shen Ruyan was speechless too. They really did not know how to respond. It was obvious that Earth Walker knew their real strength. At this moment, he waved his hand again. All right, let's not talk about this. There is something I need to remind you. In another 10 years, it will be the time when heaven and earth connect. According to his deduction, the location of the connection between heaven and earth should be in the sky plains. At that time, there would definitely be many golden core cultivators who wanted to condense a heaven nascent soul. They would go to that place to try their luck and see if they could obtain the origin chi that they dreamed of. If you also want the origin chi, you have to reach the sky plains before that. Otherwise, you might have to wait for another 60 years. Jiang Chengxuan and Shen Ruyan's hearts skipped a beat. If they rushed to the sky plains from here, they might have to hurry up. After all, that place was extremely far. Even though there were many teleportation arrays along the way, with their current speed, if they flew at full speed, it would take them at least 5 years to reach there. And this was under the condition that everything went smoothly. If things didn't go smoothly and something happened on the way, the time it would take would probably be even longer. They really had to hurry up. Thinking of this, the couple immediately said to Earthwalker Sword Sovereign, "Thank you for your reminder, Senior Earthwalker. After we return this time, we will set off for the Sky Plains immediately. Also, you have to remember that it's not long before the next Demon Beast riot." Earthwalker Sword Sovereign nodded. It's expected that the next Demon Beast riot will happen in 20 years. Trip to the Sky Plains too. And this time, at this point, Earthwalker could not help but reveal a solemn expression. It said that the situation might escalate. Perhaps even nascent soul cultivators like us might be swept into the battlefield. What? Hearing Earthwalker's words, Jiang Chengxuan and Shen Ruyan's expressions changed. This also meant that the cultivators who died in the Demon Beast riot would no longer be limited to those at or below the Golden Core realm. The high and mighty nascent soul, perfected lords could also fall. This was a very terrifying thing. This was because the involvement of higher-level cultivators meant a greater battle and a wider range of war. At this moment, Jiang Chengxuan and Shen Ruyan could not help but feel a little anxious. Although they already had the strength to fight a nascent soul cultivator head-on. They even had the strength to kill ordinary early-stage, yellow nascent soul cultivators. However, in the face of the upcoming Demon Beast riot, this bit of strength did not seem to be able to guarantee their safety. They had to think of a way to increase their cultivation and strength as soon as possible. Half a month later, Jiang Chengxuan and Shen Ruyan finally returned to the family. Normally, they would enter seclusion after returning to the family. However, the arrival of the origin chi was around the corner. They had to reach the sky plains as soon as possible. Therefore, after making some arrangements for the family, Jiang Chengxuan informed all the higher-ups of the Kangnan Alliance to head to the headquarters of the Kangnan Alliance, which was the Zheng Nation's Mount Nether. They wanted to tell the others that there might be nascent soul perfected lords and level 5 demon emperors participating in the upcoming Demon Beast riot 20 years later. They wanted them to make the necessary arrangements in advance. Without a doubt, the news that Jiang Chengxuan said shocked everyone. They knew what it meant for nascent soul perfected lords and level 5 demon emperors to enter the battlefield. For a moment, the atmosphere in the entire Mount Nether's meeting hall became extremely solemn. One had to know that there was not a single nascent soul perfected lord in the Kangnan Alliance. If things were really as Jiang Chengxuan had said, the Kangnan Alliance, which did not even have a nascent soul perfected lord, might very well become the first batch of cannon fodder. At that time, it would be hard to say how many of them would survive. However, it was useless to be anxious. The most important thing now was to do what they could. A few months later, Jiang Chengxuan and Shen Ruyan set out for the Sky Plains together after making all the necessary arrangements. The Sky Plains was a very special place in the northern border. This plain was extremely vast, almost as large as any large state in the northern border. Most importantly, this was a plain that was entirely suspended in the sky. It was about 1,000 feet above the ground. Moreover, the environment was harsh, and the spiritual chi was thin. It was almost impossible for anyone below the Violet Palace to survive in such an environment for a long time. Legend had it that in the past, the environment of the Sky Plains was not like this. It was a huge city that was really floating in the sky. Their immortal light shone, and spiritual chi was abundant. However, for some reason, this incomparably majestic immortal city was turned into such a desolate and dilapidated area. Most importantly, the height of the Sky Plains would decrease by a meter every 100 years. At this rate, it was unknown if the entire Sky Plains would fall in the future. If that was the case, it would definitely be another huge disaster. At this moment, Jiang Chengxuan and Shen Ruyan finally arrived at the Sky Plains in the 6th year. As soon as they entered the Sky Plains, the couple clearly felt that the spiritual chi here was almost negligible. It was not too much to say that it was a land of extinction. As far as the eye could see, it was all lifeless. On the towering mountains, there was almost no sign of a living creature. Only the grayish-white rocks silently described the desolation of this place. The couple did not stay here for long. After understanding the environment of the Sky Plains, they returned to a market called Essence River City under it. This city was not a big city. It was only a market built by a remote foundation establishment family. In fact, with the environment here, families with true strength and foundation would not choose to settle down in such a place. However, this small city at the edge of the northern border had welcomed distinguished guests, one after another over the years. This also frightened the Yuan family who owned this small city. When had they ever seen so many high-level cultivators? It had to be known that in their eyes, Violet Palace cultivators were already an extremely high and mighty existence. However, at this moment, there were many golden cores arriving one after another. If not for the fact that they were afraid of angering these golden cores, the Yuan family would really want to leave this place immediately. They did not want the family inheritance or family ancestral land. It was really too scary to be with golden cores. In front of these golden cores, the Yuan family was no different from the mortals. Perhaps if they offended any of them, the entire Yuan family would be reduced to ashes. After Jiang Chengxuan and Shen Ruyan entered the Essence River City, they went straight to a cave abode they had built here. With their cultivation, the cave abode provided by Essence River City could not satisfy their daily cultivation needs. They could only rely on themselves to set up arrays to obtain what they needed. However, as soon as they arrived at the entrance of their cave abode, the couple's expressions immediately darkened. It was because the restrictions they had set up here actually had traces of being attacked. This was actually quite common in this place. After all, a group of top golden cores were gathered here, and they were pretty much competitors. Most importantly in this place, golden cores like them were not restrained at all, so friction and conflict were naturally inevitable. Especially for those who already had grudges against each other, they would not miss the opportunity to settle the grudges. During the time they had been here, they had already seen a few conflicts breaking out. However, at that time, both sides restrained themselves and did not really escalate it. What the couple didn't expect was that someone would actually take the initiative to provoke them. If they continued to pretend that nothing had happened, similar things would definitely happen in the next 4 years. At that thought, Shen Ruyan immediately activated the recording function of their cave abode. Soon, a burly man with a huge saber at his waist and a scar on his face appeared in front of Jiang Chengxuan and Shen Ruyan. Seeing this person, Jiang Chengxuan and Shen Ruyan narrowed their eyes. Chapter 441, Compensation, Level 5 Dragon Void Grass, a strange, nascent soul cultivator. Obviously, Jiang Chengxuan and Shen Ruyan were no strangers to the person in front of them. This person's name was Tu Tianba. He was at the 9th level of the Golden Core and was from a nascent soul sect, the Berserk Saber sect. He was fierce, surly, and cruel by nature. Once he was dissatisfied with someone, he would attack without rhyme or reason. In fact, he was not the only one. As far as Jiang Chengxuan and Shen Ruyan knew, most of the people in the Berserk Saber sect were like this. This seemed to be related to the cultivation technique they cultivated. Under normal circumstances, the Berserk Saber sect would not let people like Tu Tianba, who had unstable temperament, travel outside. However, this person's grandfather was one of the nascent souls of the current Berserk Saber sect. Under Tu Tianba's relentless plea, he had no choice but to agree to let him go to the Sky Plains to try to fight for the origin chi. If Tu Tianba really had a chance to obtain the origin chi, it might be able to make up for the flaw in his temperament. At that time, the Berserk Saber sect would have a heaven nascent soul. However, Tu Tianba was too good at causing trouble. During this period of time, he had clashed with several golden cores. However, they were wary of his identity and didn't dare to kick up a fuss about it. But now he had actually offended Jiang Chengxuan and Shen Ruyan. The couple looked at each other. Soon they found the cave abode that Tu Tianba had built here. Without another word, the two of them attacked. With a bang, flames immediately rose in Tu Tianba's cave abode. The protective array was also on the verge of collapse. This surprised everyone who saw this scene. Then they gathered to watch with interest. It seemed like Tu Tianba had really encountered a tough opponent this time. They just didn't know how far the two sides would develop in the end. It would be great if they suffered a casualty. As long as there was one less competitor, it would be a good thing. You're courting death. Just as everyone was watching the scene with interest, Tu Tianba, who was in his cave abode, let out an angry roar. Subsequently, a fierce saber beam that was like a waterfall poured out of his cave abode. There was a clang. The saber beam immediately shattered. Then Jiang Chengxuan and Shen Ruyan flew into the sky. At the same time, Tu Tianba, who had a fierce expression on his face, immediately chased after them. He stared fixedly at the two of them and said word by word, "How dare you attack my cave abode? I will kill you today." Hearing his words, Jiang Chengxuan and Shen Ruyan's expressions turned cold. As Jiang Chengxuan quickly left Essence River City, he said coldly, "Tu Tianba, don't you know what you just did? If you hadn't attacked our cave abode when we weren't around, we wouldn't have attacked yours for no reason." "So what?" Tu Tianba did not care at all. He still said fiercely, "Even so you can't attack my cave abode, otherwise I will fight you to death." Jiang Chengxuan was speechless. And so was Shen Ruyan. They suddenly realized that they could not reason with Tu Tianba at all. Since that was the case, Jiang Chengxuan's eyes narrowed. In the next moment, he suddenly grew taller. Whoosh, whoosh, whoosh. The surging blood qi quickly boiled in his body. The terrifying heat wave instantly evaporated the surrounding air. Before Tu Tianba could react, he had already lost sight of Jiang Chengxuan. In the next moment, he felt his body tremble. His head was cocked to the side. Jiang Chengxuan's fist had already landed on his face, sending him flying dozens of kilometers away. Boom, boom, boom. Tu Tianba hit several mountains in a row. Before he could catch his breath, a ferocious knee strike slammed into his chest. In the air, a huge circular chi wave suddenly spread in all directions. Boom, boom, boom. Another series of loud bangs sounded in the air. Tu Tianba was sent flying again. Arg! Tu Tianba opened his mouth and spat out a mouthful of blood. This scene greatly exceeded the expectations of everyone who came to watch. They really did not expect Jiang Chengxuan to be able to crush someone as ruthless as Tu Tianba. Most importantly, from the beginning to the end, Jiang Chengxuan had only used his body tempering technique. This was too terrifying. If physical strength was only a part of his overall strength, then his true strength was definitely beyond everyone's imagination. Some strange, nascent soul cultivator, too. What was more, Shen Ruyan, who was with him, hadn't made a move yet. However, judging from the aura she emitted just now, it was clear that she was not to be underestimated. No wonder they were not afraid of Tu Tianba at all, and dared to challenge him head-on. At this moment, many of the onlookers could not help but reveal a solemn expression. It seemed that this couple would definitely become one of their strongest opponents in the competition for the origin chi. "I'll kill you." Just as everyone was letting their imagination run wild, Tu Tianba, who had been sent flying by Jiang Chengxuan again, was finally maddened. His eyes were red, and the veins on his forehead were bulging. His face became extremely ferocious. A clang sounded. He suddenly took out a long black saber. The blade was immediately dyed red. The pupils of the onlookers constricted. This lunatic actually used the blood-burning secret technique. Didn't he know that once he used such a secret technique, even if he could temporarily gain the upper hand in this conflict, he would have no chance to compete for the origin chi? Enough. At this moment, a figure suddenly appeared in front of Tu Tianba. A hand pressed on Tu Tianba's shoulder and forced the surging blood back. Even the blood-red saber returned to normal. Everyone was shocked. To be able to completely rein two Tiamba in, this strength was not something a golden core cultivator could do. Could he be? Everyone's hearts skipped a beat. Yang Chengxuan and Shen Ruyan narrowed their eyes. They weren't fools. At this moment, they already had a guess as to who that person was. Senior brother Jiang, let go of me, let go of me, let me kill that kid, I must kill that kid. At this moment, Tu Tiamba, who was controlled by the person, was still struggling. The middle-aged man he called Senior Brother Jiang had an ugly expression. He suddenly raised his hand and hit Tu Tiamba's head. With that, the entire world fell silent. It was only then that Senior Brother Jiang looked at Jiang Chengxuan and Shen Ruyan. He cupped his fists and said, "Young friends, I apologize on behalf of Tiamba for what happened just now. Also, if Tiamba did anything offensive, I'll apologize to you. Before coming out, my Shifu, perfected Lord Dong Xuan, asked me to keep an eye on Tiamba in secret. However, I had something to do and left for a while. I didn't expect him to cause so much trouble for you. My apologies." This person's words were more pleasing to the ear. In particular, for a high and mighty nascent soul perfected lord, he seemed quite reasonable. At that moment, the couple waved their hands, indicating that this was all a misunderstanding and that they would not take it to heart. Even so, Jiang Yuengsen, Senior Brother Jiang, was still very insistent. It even made people think that he was not a nascent soul perfected lord at all, but a violet palace cultivator who was a realm lower than them. Jiang Yuengsen carried Tu Tiamba to Jiang Chengxuan and Shen Ruyan. He took out a jade box and handed it to Jiang Chengxuan. "The two of you, take this as a token of my apology. I'm really sorry about what happened just now." Huh? Seeing Jiang Yuengsen's actions, Jiang Chengxuan and Shen Ruyan were stunned. This time, they really did not understand what the other party was up to. Especially when they saw the thing in the jade box, they were more shocked. There was a dragon-shaped grass quietly placed in the jade box. This was the body-tempering holy herb that Jiang Chengxuan had used before. It was called dragon void grass. However, this dragon void grass was not level 4, but one that had reached level 5. If Jiang Chengxuan could use this level 5 dragon void grass to temper his body again, his body tempering technique might be able to reach level 5. "Senior Jiang, what are you?" Facing a level 5 dragon void grass, it would be a lie to say Jiang Chengxuan was not tempted at all. However, compared to that, he wanted to understand the other party's real motive more. As if reading Jiang Chengxuan's mind, Jiang Yuengsen smiled. "Young friend, there's no need to worry. I said that this is a token of my apology, and I meant it. I only hope that the next time you meet my good-for-nothing junior brother, don't hold it against him. Even if you have no choice but to fight him, try your best not to endanger his life. After all, my Shifu only has one grandson. If anything happens, he will be sad." After saying that, Jiang Yuengsen did not stay any longer and immediately disappeared with Tu Tiamba. Jiang Chengxuan and Shen Ruyan looked at each other. They felt that Jiang Yuengsen was a little too. He did not look like a nascent soul cultivator of a large sect at all. However, they did not think too much about it. Soon, the couple returned to their cave abode. However, as soon as the two of them returned to the cave abode, someone came to visit. The person was a 9th-level golden core independent cultivator. His name was Tang Beisheng. He was also the first fellow Taoist the couple got to know since they came here. At this moment, Tang Beisheng was invited in by Jiang Chengxuan and Shen Ruyan. After they sat down, Tang Beisheng smiled and said to them, "Fellow Taoist Jiang, fellow Taoist Shen, you've really helped us vent our anger today." Hearing Tang Beisheng's words, the couple immediately waved their hands humbly. But soon they thought of a question. Jiang Chengxuan immediately asked Tang Beisheng, "Fellow Taoist Tang, do you know what kind of person Senior Jiang of the Berserk Saber sect is?" Tang Beisheng said with a smile, "I think the reason why you're asking about him is because of his actions today, right? To be honest, if it were anyone else, they might not know about it. However, I'm lucky enough to know the inside story." "Really? Then please enlighten us." Jiang Chengxuan asked humbly. "It's actually very simple." Tang Beisheng smiled again and said, "All of this is still related to the cultivation technique they cultivate." It's related to the cultivation technique they cultivate." "That's right." Tang Beisheng nodded. Take Tu Tianbai for example. Because of the cultivation technique he cultivates, His temperament is flawed and he will, more often than not, display extreme stubbornness and self-centeredness. However, Senior Jiang's situation is exactly the opposite. Tu Tianba is extremely stubborn and self-centered, while that Senior Jiang is extremely humble and easygoing. Level 5 in obtaining a divine power, rock speed. There's such a thing. Yang Chengxuan and Shen Ruyan were somewhat surprised. Clearly, they didn't expect that the reason why Jiang Yuxin acted that way was also related to the cultivation technique of his sect. At this moment, Tang Beisheng continued. In fact, cultivators from the Berserk Saber sect are basically of these two types. They are either very difficult to talk to, stubborn and self-centered, or very easy to talk to, particularly gentle and polite. There are probably not many who are not influenced by these two extreme temperaments. With that said, Tang Beisheng suddenly sighed softly. As far as I know, those with personalities like Senior Jiang are generally assigned to cooperate with other sects. As for those with personalities like Tu Tianba, they are arranged to participate in the core battlefield between the human and demon beasts. It is said that in the past few hundred years, many cultivators with personalities like Tu Tianba have died on the battlefield. Perfected Lord Dong Xuan may have agreed to let Tu Tianba come to the Sky Plains to try his luck for this reason. After all, if he cannot fix his personality, even if his future cultivation reaches a high level, he cannot shoulder the responsibility of protecting the Berserk Saber sect. Most likely, he would die on the battlefield just like his fellow disciples. Jiang Chengxuan and Shen Ruyan didn't expect there to be such a reason. This made the two of them reduce some of their prejudices against the Berserk Saber sect. Because, according to Tang Beisheng, this sect did not have much of a problem in terms of righteousness. So overall, Tu Tianbai's behavior could be tolerated. After a while, Yang Chengxuan looked at Tang Beisheng and could not help but smile. Fellow Taoist Tang, there must be something else you're here for, right? Tang Beisheng immediately smiled and nodded. Yes, I actually came to ask the two of you if you want to team up for the sky. Plane expedition 4 years later. Obviously, after seeing the strength of Jiang Chengxuan and Shen Ruyan, he wanted to act together with them. However, Jiang Chengxuan shook his head. I'm really sorry, fellow Taoist Tang. I think you know what the trip to the Sky Plains 4 years later means. At that time, we might be competitors. Therefore, forget about teaming up. The two of us won't team up with anyone when the time comes. The only thing we can promise you is that when facing others, we can unite. As for whether you and I can snatch the origin chi in the end, everything depends on our abilities. What do you think? Regarding Jiang Chengxuan's answer, to be honest, Tang Beisheng had already anticipated it before he came. After all, this concerned the opportunity to attain the Tao. Other than husband and wife who lived and died together, it was probably very difficult for anyone to trust a stranger. If it were him, he would probably make the same choice as Jiang Chengxuan. The reason why he asked that was just because he wanted to try his luck. Under the calm response of Jiang Chengxuan, Tang Beisheng felt slightly embarrassed. However, he didn't show it on the surface and instead smiled, nodding in agreement. Let's do as you said. Good. Jiang Chengxuan nodded with a smile. After that, the three continued to discuss other matters. When the time was about right, Tang Beisheng took the initiative to bid farewell. After Tang Beisheng left, Jiang Chengxuan looked at Shen Ruyan beside him, smiling as he asked, Ruyan, what do you think of Tang Beisheng? Shen Ruyan obviously knew that her husband would ask her this question, and answered without much thought. Tang Beisheng seems to be an okay person. Most importantly, he seems to have unique talents and connections when it comes to gathering and searching for information. Many things that we don't know, he seems to have some understanding, which is quite rare among golden core cultivators. You think so too? Jiang Chengxuan smiled. Then, do you think he will agree to join the Jiang family as a guest elder in the future? Oh, you want him to be a guest elder of our Jiang family? Shen Ruyan was obviously surprised. However, she quickly understood and thought for a moment before saying, it might be difficult. After all, he has been an independent cultivator for so many years. If he really wanted to join a sect, he could have done so long ago. There's no need to wait until now. Moreover, our understanding of him is limited. We don't know much about his deeper character. Speaking to this point, Shen Ruyan paused for a moment. But on the other hand, if we can truly bring him into our Jiang family, it would undoubtedly be good news. Level 5 in obtaining a divine power, rock speed 2. I suggest we continue to observe. If there's a suitable opportunity, we can bring this up to him. Okay. Jiang Chengxuan nodded. By the way, next, I want to use that level 5 dragon void grass to see if I can level my body tempering technique up to level 5. If there's still time, I want to focus on cultivating the qi harvesting technique. However, during this period, I'm afraid I'll have to trouble you to guard me. When necessary, you may need to conceal some of my aura. Shen Ruyan naturally couldn't refuse her husband's request. Soon, the two of them rearranged the array in their cave abode. After completing all of this, Jiang Chengxuan began to enter seclusion. A few days later, in the cultivation room where Jiang Chengxuan was, waves of powerful aura surged. Jiang Chengxuan was soaked in the body-tempering medicinal liquid concocted from the level 5 dragon void grass. 5 colored radiance alternated on his body continuously. This was his body-tempering technique, the infinite wheel circulating at full speed. After an unknown period passed, Jiang Chengxuan suddenly felt a slight cracking sound inside his body, as if some extremely heavy shackle had been broken. Instantly, a soaring blood and spiritual light gushed out from his body. An aura strong enough to make any golden core cultivators tremble slowly emanated. Boom! Jiang Chengxuan tried to clench his fists. A thunderous roar like thunder resounded in the void. Then like a hurricane, a rush of air swept out. Is this the power of a level 5 body tempering technique? Jiang Chengxuan was a little shocked. At this moment he could clearly feel his strength. It seemed to be infinite, flowing through his every meridians. Even when facing an ordinary level 5 true treasure, he had full confidence in resisting its power with his physical body alone. If he were to fully unleash his physical divine power, the dragon elephant divine power, Jiang Chengxuan couldn't help but wonder how terrifying his strength would be. Clang! After summoning his intrinsic Dharma treasure, the golden void sword, Jiang Chengxuan immediately activated it and fiercely slashed at his own arm. Tear! In an instant, a series of sparks splashed. Although his golden void sword had not yet reached the level of a true treasure, its sharpness was enough to pose a threat to a nascent soul cultivator and level 5 demon emperor. However, at this moment, the attack only produced a series of sparks on his body. Jiang Chengxuan made up his mind and immediately increased the output of his dharmic power. Finally, the sound of the sword cutting through the skin echoed. A drop of blood, resembling a red agate, fell from the wound on his arm. When it landed on the ground, waves of heat surged up. In an instant, the cultivation room was filled with dense, sizzling hot air. Looking at the wound on his arm, a faint 5-colored halo suddenly appeared. In a short time, the skin that was cut by the golden void sword had unexpectedly recovered to its original state. Even the remaining sword qi on it was eliminated. This was the ability he gained after his body tempering technique reached level 5. It was the self-healing ability of the infinite wheel. Ding! At the same time, a familiar system notification suddenly appeared in his mind. Congratulations, host, for achieving level 5 body tempering technique. You have gained the physical divine power, rock speed. Rock speed, as the name suggests, this divine power is a speed divine power. The fastest speed is comparable to that of the rock. However, Jiang Chengxuan knew that for now, the so-called fastest speed was only in theory. Because with his current physical strength, it was impossible to endure the fastest speed. If he forcefully attempted it, his only fate would be the collapse of his physical body, turning into ashes. Therefore, the speed limit of the divine power he obtained now depended not on the power of the divine power itself, but entirely on the strength of his physical body. The stronger his physical body, the higher the speed limit he could withstand. And vice versa. So, to understand the current power of this divine power, he needed to know the speed limit his physical body could bear. At the thought of this, Jiang Chengxuan did not continue his seclusion. Instead, he left his cultivation room. Seeing Jiang Chengxuan coming out, Shen Ruyan, who was waiting outside, immediately approached and asked, "Husband, did you finish your seclusion?" Jiang Chengxuan shook his head. "It's not officially over yet. I just had a breakthrough and obtained a new divine power, so I wanted to come out and test its effects." With that, Jiang Chengxuan told Shen Ruyan about his current situation. Upon hearing this, joy appeared on Shen Ruyan's face. "Really? Husband, did your body tempering technique really break through to level 5? and you've also obtained a new divine power." While speaking, the couple had already left the cave abode. Until they arrived in an uninhabited area, they finally stopped. "Here should be fine." Yang Chengxuan observed the surroundings, then immediately unleashed the power of rock speed. Buzz! In an instant, Jiang Chengxuan's figure became blurry. Only a faint white trace streaked across the sky. And in that moment, he had flown countless distances. Moreover, the speed continued to increase. In the end, even with Shen Ruyan using the True Lightning Divine Seal and the addition of the Thunder Spirit True Body, she still couldn't catch up with Jiang Chengxuan's speed. Husband's speed is really terrifying. Shen Ruyan stopped and looked at the void in the distance. On the other side, Yang Chengxuan felt a pricking pain spreading throughout his body at this moment. Obviously, his current speed was about to reach the limit his physical body could withstand. However, this speed had already far exceeded level 5 Demon Emperors. Of course, if he still wanted to continue accelerating, it should be possible, but it was unnecessary. Having tested it to this point, he had an accurate understanding of the speed limit he could currently achieve. After returning to the cave abode with Shen Ruyan, Jiang Chengxuan continued his seclusion. This time, what he wanted to cultivate was the qi harvesting technique. This technique was also one of the most important methods he relied on to obtain the origin qi. Back then, after he obtained this technique from the Golden Furnace sect, he had never stopped studying and cultivating it. Now, he could basically gather all kinds of natural qi in the world with relative accuracy. Especially the blessing qi and bad luck, he had successfully condensed one wisp each. At the critical moment, they might come in handy. Time passed slowly. In the blink of an eye, another 2 years had passed. At this moment, the spiritual qi in this world was thickening. Clearly, the interaction between heaven and earth was about to arrive. At this moment, Jiang Chengxuan walked out of his cultivation room. Shen Ruyan, who was waiting outside, immediately went forward and said with a solemn expression, "Husband, it's about time." "Okay, then let's go over directly." As they spoke, the couple left the cave abode and flew towards the sky plains. Origin Qi, slaying the enemy. At the same time, all the cultivators intending to contend for the origin Qi flew towards the sky plains. In no time, the sky was filled with powerful auras. Upon entering the sky plains, Jiang Chengxuan and Shen Ruyan sensed the difference compared to before. Previously, this place felt desolate and lifeless, but now it was teeming with vitality, mixed with faint, chaotic auras. Swoosh, swoosh, swoosh. In a short while, all the cultivators in the vicinity entered the sky plains. Various formidable auras collided, and occasional dull thuds echoed through the entire plain. Jiang Chengxuan and Shen Ruyan hadn't encountered any cultivators yet, so there was no one testing their strength. In fact, with the combat strength they had displayed previously, even if a cultivator really landed beside them, they wouldn't dare to offend them easily. Boom! Finally, after some time had passed again, the ground of the entire sky plains trembled violently. Soon after, black and white lights began to alternate in the sky above. A completely different aura, not normal in any sense, suddenly appeared in everyone's divine sense. At this moment, a thought appeared in everyone's mind. Heaven and earth are about to connect. Buzz, buzz, buzz. Suddenly, several auras containing the essence of heaven and earth flashed and disappeared in everyone's divine sense. Everyone's heart skipped a beat. That was undoubtedly the legendary origin Qi. An eager and somewhat greedy expression appeared on everyone's face. Without warning, dozens of streaks of light flew towards the direction of the origin Qi. Jiang Chengxuan and Shen Ruyan were not in a hurry to take action. Yang Chengxuan's hands quickly formed seals. A mystical aura was emitted from his body. At this moment, he was using the heavenly calculation technique to quickly deduce the location where the origin Qi might appear. Gradually, his face began to turn pale. This was a sign that he had overused it. Fortunately, at this moment, Jiang Chengxuan suddenly stopped and said to Shen Ruyan, who was standing beside him, "Let's go to the southeast." As soon as he finished speaking, the couple did not hesitate at all. Their figures immediately turned into 2 streaks of light and quickly flew towards the southeast direction. After a while, the couple landed on a deathly silent mountain peak that was completely gray. Shen Ruyan looked at Jiang Chengxuan. Jiang Chengxuan nodded. "This must be the place." After a pause, Jiang Chengxuan said to Shen Ruyan solemnly, "Ruyan, I'm going to use the chi harvesting technique later to try to collect the origin chi that might be hidden here. During this process, my spell can't be interrupted, so I need you to protect me. No matter who passes, you can't let him disturb me." Hearing Jiang Chengxuan's words, Shen Ruyan immediately nodded. "Don't worry, I won't let anyone get close to you." Soon, Jiang Chengxuan began to quickly form hand seals again. A special aura began to appear on his body. In the sky, there seemed to be invisible threads that began to be attracted by Jiang Chengxuan's chi harvesting technique and gradually flew towards him. "This is death chi no. This is vital chi no. This is clear chi no. This is calamity chi no. This is evil chi," and it was still not. "This. Wait." Suddenly, Jiang Chengxuan, who was quickly forming hand seals and using the chi harvesting technique, narrowed his eyes. "Origin chi, I've found it." At this moment, Jiang Chengxuan was overjoyed. It had to be said that the chi harvesting technique indeed had a unique advantage in sensing and collecting chi. Jiang Chengxuan did not hesitate at all. He immediately used the chi harvesting technique with all his might and quickly established a preliminary connection with the wisp of origin chi. Then he began to slowly but steadily guide the wisp of origin chi towards him. At this moment, Jiang Chengxuan was completely focused. He did not have the extra energy to care about anything else. However, at this moment, two streaks of light suddenly flashed over from the distant sky. Shen Ruyan, who was guarding Jiang Chengxuan, narrowed her eyes. She instantly recognized that they were cultivators from a large nascent soul sect in the northern border. One was at the 9th level of the Golden Core realm, and the other was a false nascent soul cultivator. Both of them saw Shen Ruyan. But in the next second, they moved their gaze to Jiang Chengxuan behind Shen Ruyan. Especially in the sky above Jiang Chengxuan, there was a wisp of faintly discernible origin chi. Almost at the same time, a trace of ecstasy appeared in their eyes, followed by an uncontrollable greed. Almost subconsciously, the two cultivators wanted to rush towards Jiang Chengxuan. However, just as they were about to do it, they each felt a figure flash before their eyes. It was Shen Ruyan. "Fellow Taoists, this path is closed. You'd better choose another route," Shen Ruyan calmly said. Hearing Shen Ruyan's words, the square-faced male cultivator at False Nascent Soul Realm sneered. "Closed? You think you can decide that? Who do you think you are, overestimating yourself?" With that, without any hesitation, the square-faced male cultivator raised his hand and summoned a large bell, instantly shrouding Shen Ruyan. With the origin chi right in front of him, he wouldn't care who was blocking him. Anyone daring to stand in his way would be ruthlessly dealt with. The other cultivator at the 9th level of Golden Core didn't hesitate either. After the square-faced male cultivator unleashed his treasure, he did the same. It was an ice-blue flying sword. In an instant, the temperature in the surroundings dropped by hundreds of degrees, and a thick layer of frost formed on the ground. Seeing this, a murderous intent flashed in Shen Ruyan's beautiful eyes. Since they insisted on taking this path, they would be enemies. To enemies, Shen Ruyan naturally would not hold back. At this moment, she had to ensure that Jiang Chengxuan would not be affected at all costs. Therefore, as soon as she took action, she used her full strength. How powerful was Shen Ruyan when she used all her strength? To put it without exaggeration, even if a yellow nascent soul was here, he would suffer, let alone these two. In almost an instant, Shen Ruyan blocked their attacks. Then her 5 lightning immortal slayer showed no mercy. It slashed through their bodies, killing them on the spot in midair. Arg! 2 miserable screams echoed in the air. The square-faced male cultivator and the green-robed male cultivator, who had been planning to snatch the origin chi, never expected Shen Ruyan's strength to be so terrifying. What was even more unexpected was that she actually dared to kill them and risk offending their sect. This scene was witnessed by some cultivators who happened to pass by. This made their haste skip a beat. They knew the strength these two cultivators from the Changxuan sect well, especially the square-faced male cultivator who had reached false nascent soul. Yet facing Shen Ruyan, they were effortlessly killed. How terrifying was her strength! Without daring to linger, these cultivators quickly disappeared from the area. At the same time, Jiang Chengxuan had reached the critical moment. As he completed the last hand seal, the origin chi, which seemed to be hidden in a certain spatial layer, finally revealed its true form. With a flash of light, the origin chi, emitting a faint celestial aura, was captured by Jiang Chengxuan and quickly stored away. A smile appeared on his face. This heavenly mother Qi contained a trace of the origin of the heavenly Tao, a treasure that countless people coveted. Not everyone could obtain it just by having high cultivation and diverse methods. Without sufficient faith, even if you saw the origin Qi with your own eyes, you might not be able to get it, just like the square-faced male and the green-robed male. Not only did they not obtain the origin Qi, but they also suffered a calamity for nothing. This was why even though there were so many nascent soul perfected lords in the world, the ones with a heaven nascent soul were few and far between. The couple did not linger and quickly left together. Afterwards, Jiang Chengxuan and Shen Ruyan continued to travel while calculating the possible locations of the origin Qi. However, after several hours passed, even with Jiang Chengxuan using all his strength, he still couldn't calculate the location of the second wisp of origin Qi. He knew that this should be a restriction of some kind. After obtaining one origin Qi, it became extremely difficult to obtain another. Fortunately, during their journey, they had some gains. Just now, they were very lucky to find a wisp of earth Qi on a large piece of cracked ground. The so-called connection between heaven and earth would not only give birth to origin Qi, but also earth Qi. And this earth Qi was the goal of most cultivators who came to Sky Plains. Although it was also very difficult to obtain, it was much easier than the origin Qi. Just like that, a day passed quickly. However, it was as if their luck had been used up. Not to mention the origin Qi, even the earth Qi had never been discovered again. It seemed that he had to use some methods to increase his luck. Otherwise, it would probably be very difficult to gain anything. Most importantly, the connection between heaven and earth would not last long. There were only 3 days in total. Now that a day had passed, on the second and third day, the probability of birth and discovery of the origin Qi would only decrease. Origin Qi, slaying the enemy 3. With this in mind, Jiang Chengxuan immediately fused the blessing Qi he had collected previously into his own body. However, he didn't know if a single blessing Qi would be enough to locate the second wisp of origin Qi. If not, he might have to use the Providence pill. Thinking this, Jiang Chengxuan once again activated the heavenly calculation technique to calculate the location of the second wisp of origin Qi. 2 hours passed, 4 hours passed, 6 hours passed. Jiang Chengxuan's forehead was already covered in sweat. Suddenly he opened his eyes, he grabbed Shen Ruyan and said, "Let's go." Then the two of them disappeared. Half a day later, the two of them suddenly appeared beside a broken cliff. Jiang Chengxuan's face showed a hint of joy as he said to Shen Ruyan, "This is the place." After speaking, without waiting for Shen Ruyan's response, he immediately used the Qi harvesting technique once again. Then the faint origin Qi was finally drawn out by Jiang Chengxuan bit by bit. After a while, the second wisp of origin Qi was successfully collected by Jiang Chengxuan. From this point onward, the couple had completed their goal of coming here. However, at this moment in the distant sky, there suddenly came waves of dharmic power fluctuations, accompanied by angry shouts. "Chang Lingzi, you're too much. I discovered this earth Qi first. Why should I give it to you?" Hearing this voice, Jiang Chengxuan and Shen Ruyan looked at each other in surprise. Why did this voice sound so familiar? Soon they both thought of someone. It was none other than Tang Beisheng, who had visited their cave abode before. Unexpectedly, he had the fortune to obtain an earth Qi in Sky Plains. Unfortunately, he seemed to have been targeted by that person called Chang Lingzi. His situation did not seem to be particularly optimistic. Should they help or not? Jiang Chengxuan and Shen Ruyan exchanged glances again. Soon the couple made a decision. Help. Since they had the intention of recruiting this person as a guest elder of the Jiang family, now was the best time to win him over. Thinking of this, Jiang Chengxuan and Shen Ruyan did not hesitate any longer. Their figures flashed as they flew towards the battlefield. At the same time, Tang Beisheng was already forced to retreat by a man in a dark green Taoist robe. He was already seriously injured. His opponent was a false nascent soul cultivator, and judging from his aura, he was not an ordinary one. Tang Beisheng, a golden core cultivator, had no chance against him. Must I really hand over the earth Qi to him? This is something I worked so hard to find. In my whole life, there may be only this one chance. Once I give it to him, I might never have the opportunity to condense an earth nascent soul. Most importantly, judging from the current appearance. Even if I really give him the earth chi, he probably won't spare me. Thinking of this, Tang Beisheng felt a trace of ruthlessness. As an independent cultivator who had climbed up from the grassroots step by step, he didn't lack the courage to fight to the death if he needed to. At most, he would perish with him together. However, just as he was preparing to use his ultimate move, both he and Chang Lingzi suddenly sensed something. They simultaneously turned their heads to look in the same direction. Their two figures were flying over at high speed. When Tang Beisheng saw the person clearly, a hint of joy appeared on his face. Brother Jiang Fairy Shen. Seeing that Tang Beisheng knew the two of them, Chang Lingzi's eyes immediately narrowed. He looked at Jiang Chengxuan and Shen Ruyan threateningly and said coldly, "You two, I am an elder of Changxuan sect. I hope you don't interfere in this matter to avoid bringing disaster upon yourselves." A from Changxuan sect. Upon hearing Chang Lingzi's words, Jiang Chengxuan and Shen Ruyan, who had arrived at Tang Beisheng's side, couldn't help but be surprised. How many people from Changxuan sect had come to the Sky Plains this time? This seemed too coincidental. Right after they killed 2 cultivators from Changxuan sect, 2 more came. This is really... Tang Beisheng, who was at the side, was a little anxious. He was afraid that the couple would be scared away by their background. If that happened, he would be in real danger. Thinking of this, Tang Beisheng gritted his teeth and turned to the couple, saying, "Brother Jiang, Fairy Shen, to be honest, the reason they are chasing me is that they want to snatch the earth chi in my hands. I believe you are familiar with my character. Rather than giving it to them for nothing, I'd rather give it to you." The meaning of his words was clear. As long as Jiang Chengxuan and Shen Ruyan could help him out, he would willingly offer earth chi. However, Jiang Chengxuan shook his head with a smile. "Brother Tang, did you forget about our previous agreement? Since you've encountered danger, it's only right for us to help you. As for the earth chi, you should keep it. We won't take it and we won't compete for it." These words made Tang Beisheng slightly shocked. He had heard about the couple being people of great integrity, and now it seemed that these rumors were not unfounded. Tang Beisheng was not a person who liked to be overly polite. Upon hearing this, he smiled and said, "All right, in that case, let's join forces. If you two need my help in the future, I promise to do my best and won't refuse." As they spoke, the 3 of them joined forces and launched an attack on Chang Lingzi. Even if Jiang Chengxuan and Shen Ruyan only used 30% of their strength, they still forced Chang Lingzi to retreat step by step. This made Chang Lingzi furious. He hadn't expected such a change in the situation. With his current strength, it was impossible to defeat the 3 of them teaming up. If he continued to insist, the only outcome would be defeat. Realizing this, Chang Lingzi no longer hesitated. He suddenly produced a talisman in his hand and activated it. Buzz! In an instant, a force of teleportation enveloped him. Jiang Chengxuan and Shen Ruyan narrowed their eyes. Without holding back, the 2 of them attacked and beheaded Chang Lingzi before he was teleported away. His golden core was also shattered in midair. Arg! It wasn't until this moment that Chang Lingzi's unwilling scream echoed in the sky. Tang Beisheng was stunned. This couple's strength had already reached an unimaginable level. Then he cupped his fists and thanked the 2 of them again. "Thank you for your help, Brother Jiang and Fairy Shen. I think you should take this earth chi." As he spoke, Tang Beisheng really took out the earth chi. Jiang Chengxuan shook his head with a hint of dissatisfaction. "Brother Tang, what do you mean by this? We've already said that we won't take it. Why are you doing this now? Do you think that we would kill for treasures like those despicable cultivators?" Jiang Chengxuan's tone clearly became heavier at the end of his sentence. This made Tang Beisheng look a little embarrassed. In all honesty, it would be a lie to say it didn't hurt him to give the earth chi away. However, after hearing Jiang Chengxuan's words, he was truly convinced that the couple wouldn't take his things. Thinking of this, Tang Beisheng quickly apologized. After a while, he looked at Jiang Chengxuan and Shen Ruyan with a slightly serious expression. "Do you have any plans for what to do next? We just killed a false nascent soul of Changxuan sect. Changxuan sect will not let this matter rest easily. Although any cultivator above the nascent soul realm is not allowed to intervene in the struggle for the origin chi, if Changxuan sect finds out about what we've done, it's hard to say if they'll come after us." Editor Henny Translations. Upon hearing that, Jiang Chengxuan and Shen Ruyan were not particularly worried. Although Changxuan sect was a big nascent soul sect, the number of nascent soul cultivators within the sect was not high. As far as they knew, there were only 3 perfected lords in the sect, and all of them were at the early stage. Although they were unsure about the grade of their nascent souls, they believed it wouldn't be too high at most blacks. Facing such opponents, Jiang Chengxuan and Shen Ruyan were not too worried. Therefore, the couple reassured Tang Beisheng, indicating that he didn't to worry too much. Tang Beisheng, being a perceptive person, understood from their words and reactions that the couple wasn't particularly concerned about Changshuan's sect. With this, Tang Beisheng was more at ease. The 3 of them continued to explore the sky plains for possible opportunities. However, with 1 wisp of origin QJ and 1 earth chi in possession of Jiang Chengxuan and Shen Ruyan, finding additional opportunities seemed unlikely. Unless Jiang Chengxuan consumed the Providence pill, which didn't seem cost-effective, they decided not to insist on searching further. When Tang Beisheng saw their reaction, he was a little shocked at first, but he quickly regained his senses. Could it be that the 2 of them had already found what they wanted before this? Just like that, time passed. It was time for the connection between heaven and earth to end. Therefore, Jiang Chengxuan, Shen Ruyan, and Tang Beisheng didn't stay in the sky plains any longer. They flew away from the sky plains almost immediately. A few days after they left the sky plains, numerous majestic figures descended on the area. These were cultivators of nascent soul perfected lords from various major sects, aiming to escort their disciples back to their sects. At this moment, among the nascent soul cultivators, a middle-aged perfected lord in black Taoist robe spoke with a cold expression. "Fellow cultivators, does anyone know why the 3 elders from my Changshuan sect fell?" This person was one of the 3 nascent soul perfected lords from Changshuan sect, named Huang Hai Perfected Lord. Several days ago, he had received reports from his sect's disciples that the soul tablets of Chang Lingzi and others had shattered. His purpose in coming here was to find out the reason behind the deaths of the 3 elders. If their deaths were accidental, that was one thing. However, if there was foul play involved, he intended to investigate and hold the responsible party accountable. Although the rules stated that no one could intervene during the struggle for the origin chi, and no one could inquire about the events that occurred, nascent soul perfected lords still had their own ways of dealing with things. If they could find out who was behind the incidents, they wouldn't hesitate to bend the rules a bit. Seeing that no one answered his question, perfected Lord Huang Hai's brows furrowed slightly. He raised his hand, and a curved ice-blue treasure appeared. He continued, "This treasure is called the Ice Orchid Soul Seizing Hook. It's a high-grade level 4 Dharma treasure. It has an extraordinary effect on soul attacks. I'll ask once again, does anyone know how the 3 elders from my Changshuan sect died? If someone can provide me with the answer, this treasure will be yours." His words instantly brightened the eyes of many cultivators present. For most cultivators at the 9th level of the golden core or false nascent soul, the hope of condensing a nascent soul was not high. They are seeking a more powerful treasure, or divine power was necessary. Without a doubt, the Ice Orchid Soul Seizing Hook that perfected Lord Huang Hai took out was a Dharma treasure that could increase their strength. However, regretfully, most cultivators were not aware of the deaths of the 3 elders from Changshuan sect. However, there were a few who saw the square-faced and green-robed male cultivator being killed that day. Originally, they didn't want to get involved. After all, it had nothing to do with them. However, the situation was clearly different now. The other party took out something that tempted them, and they could not refuse. Therefore, in the next moment, a yellow-haired male cultivator spoke. "Senior, on that day, at the Sky Plains, I saw Taoist Yuanhao and Wu Chenzi fall at the hands of Jiang Chengxuan and his wife. As for Chang Lingzi, I'm not particularly clear about the circumstances of his death." Jiang Chengxuan and his wife. Obviously, perfected Lord Huang Hai was not familiar with Jiang Chengxuan and Shen Ruyan. The cultivator who provided the information briefly recounted the couple's background. In fact, he didn't know much about Jiang Chengxuan and Shen Ruyan either. He only told perfected Lord Huang Hai what he knew. Perfected Lord Huang Hai nodded after hearing the information. "This is enough. With this information, I have a rough understanding of what happened." Saying that, he threw the Ice Orchid Soul Seizing Hook to the cultivator who provided the information. This scene made many cultivators envious, especially those who also knew about the deaths of Wu Chenzi and the others, but were a step slower to speak up. Their coveted treasure was now taken. At the same time, Jiang Chengxuan, Shen Ruyan, and Tang Beisheng were currently on their way to a place called the state of Wuhua, which was the nearest large state to the Sky Plains. They planned to use the teleportation array in the state of Wuhua to travel to other major states. As long as they transferred through a few states, their journey should proceed without major issues. Even if Changshuan sect eventually found out that their elders died in their hands, they wouldn't be able to track them down in such a vast northern border. Unfortunately, Changshuan sect was not the only sect that had designs on them. A few days after they entered the state of Wuhua, an old and a young figure suddenly appeared, blocking their path. Yang Changshuan and Shen Ruyan recognized them at a glance. The old one was a true nascent soul cultivator, and the young one was the person who had witnessed the couple killing Changshuan sect's disciples. However, the couple knew that the reason these two were blocking their way was not to avenge Wu Chenzi or the others. Instead, it was because they had their eyes on the origin qi they had obtained. Yes, when Shen Ruyan killed the square-faced cultivator and the young cultivator in blue, she indeed noticed some people in the distance. However, it was unclear how many of those truly paid attention to Jiang Changshuan and noticed him collecting the origin qi. From the looks of it, the young cultivator in front of them had seen Jiang Changshuan collecting the origin qi. This was indeed the case. The old cultivator suddenly spoke in a calm tone. "Three of you, hand over the origin qi you obtained earlier. Don't force me to take action, otherwise you may not leave here today." What? When they suddenly heard the old nascent soul cultivator's words, the one with the greatest reaction among Jiang Changshuan and the other two was Tang Beisheng. He didn't expect Jiang Changshuan and Shen Ruyan to really obtain the legendary origin qi. This was something that even a nascent soul perfected lord would be tempted by. For a moment, Tang Beisheng couldn't help but look at Jiang Changshuan and Shen Ruyan. However, the couple's expressions did not change at all. Jiang Changshuan looked at the old nascent soul cultivator indifferently and suddenly said, "If I'm not wrong, you should be an independent cultivator from the Nova Waters, right? I do have the origin qi, but it's something I want to use. I can't hand it to you. Now, I also advise you not to blind your mind because of a moment of desire and bring disaster upon yourself." At this point, Jiang Changshuan had nothing to hide. However, his words made the old nascent soul cultivator and his disciple furious. What an arrogant brat! The old nascent soul cultivator couldn't help but sneer in anger. "Show me what kind of a disaster I will bring upon myself." With that, the old nascent soul cultivator attacked. He raised his hand, and in an instant, a large net shimmering with fiery red light descended towards Jiang Changshuan and the others. At this moment, Tang Beisheng was shocked to find that the dharmic power in his body seemed to be completely solidified. Watching the net getting closer, he found that his body and dharmic power couldn't move. This was the suppression of nascent soul cultivators against low-level cultivators. No matter how strong you were in the golden core realm, you would still be helpless against a nascent soul cultivator. Boom! However, at this critical moment, a huge white and red flame suddenly rose from Jiang Changshuan's body. Kai 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 kai. There were traces of burnt black appearing in the air. With a tearing sound, the large net shining with fiery red light was instantly engulfed by the flames Jiang Changshuan had conjured. The restriction that bound Tang Beisheng also disappeared in an instant. What? Seeing this scene, both the old nascent soul cultivator and the young cultivator were shocked. However, the old nascent soul cultivator's eyes quickly glowed with greed. A level 5 heavenly flame. That's actually a level 5 heavenly flame. The old nascent soul cultivator hadn't expected that Jiang Changshuan possessed a level 5 heavenly flame. This trip was truly worthwhile. He had found an unexpected treasure. His heart was filled with excitement. Without holding back, he raised his hand and summoned a golden ring that emitted a certain tremor. As soon as it appeared, ripples appeared in the surrounding void. A buzzing sound reverberated in their ears. Tang Beisheng's ears even began to bleed, showing signs of extreme pain. Jiang Changshuan and Shen Ruyan were not affected. The golden ring instantly expanded to 10,000 feet in size and wanted to swallow the three of them. Jiang Changshuan and Shen Ruyan exchanged a glance, and Jiang Changshuan said, "I'll handle this." With that, terrifying waves of energy surged from Jiang Changshuan's body. Within a radius of 10 miles, light twisted, and everything seemed to vibrate uncontrollably. A frightening and powerful force erupted from Jiang Changshuan's body. The previously composed old nascent soul cultivator's face suddenly changed. "This aura you are." Boom! Before he could finish his words, Jiang Chengxuan's figure suddenly disappeared in midair. A loud clang resounded, and the large ring that was closing in on them was directly punched away by Jiang Chengxuan. Tear. Following that, Jiang Chengxuan's figure flickered again, tearing apart the large net of fiery red light. With a casual swing, the large net turned into a stream of light, shattered several mountains in succession, and finally fell limply to the ground, visibly damaged. How is this possible? At this moment, the old nascent soul cultivator was truly astonished. He never dreamt that a cultivator who hadn't even reached the 9th level golden core could unleash such terrifying power. High's terror too. Where did this monster come from? Before he could figure out everything, the figure of Jiang Chengxuan, surrounded by surging and turbulent blood energy, rapidly expanded in his pupils. Damn it! The old nascent soul cultivator cursed in his heart. The next moment, a bright yellow shield suddenly rose from his body. With a loud bang, Jiang Chengxuan's attack hit the bright yellow shield, instantly causing it to dent. The entire shield's radiance dimmed significantly. At this point, the old nascent soul cultivator was getting anxious. He quickly spoke, "Junior, no, fellow Taoist, it's a misunderstanding. What just happened was all a misunderstanding." Boom! Unexpectedly, before he could finish speaking, Jiang Chengxuan's punch descended again. This time, the shield on the old nascent soul cultivator's body vibrated even more violently. This terrified him. How could there be such a terrifying brute force? Even compared to some level 5 demon beasts, he might be even stronger. No, I can't continue like this. Staying on the defensive would lead to failure. If he let Jiang Chengxuan attack a few more times, his defensive shield would shatter sooner or later. Thinking of this, the old nascent soul cultivator suddenly took out a golden and red mixed talisman. A terrifying aura spread. Not far away, Shen Ruyan's beautiful eyes suddenly narrowed. She immediately spoke to Jiang Chengxuan. "Husband, be careful. That's a level 5 Sunstrike talisman." A level 5 Sunstrike talisman. Jiang Chengxuan just heard Shen Ruyan's reminder, but the old nascent soul cultivator had already shown a fierce expression. "Junior, I didn't expect you to be able to force me to this extent. Now, dying under my golden light celestial fire talisman is something you can be proud of." Boom! As soon as he finished speaking, a terrifying aura erupted from the talisman. Within a radius of 100 miles, it was instantly covered by endless flames. A series of explosions sounded. In the center of it all, Jiang Chengxuan's body was instantly burned black. It must be said that any attack-type talisman, once reaching level 5, would undergo a leap in power. Regarding this Sunstrike talisman, its power was enough to severely injure or even bring a nascent soul cultivator to the brink of death. Although Jiang Chengxuan's physical body had undergone countless tempering and could resist the impact of ordinary true treasures, he felt a threat from this talisman. Fortunately, his strength was not limited to what he had just displayed. As the shadows of the dragon and elephant behind him flickered, his body suddenly soared. 10 feet, 200 feet, 300 feet, 400 feet, 500 feet. His figure rose to 500 feet before stopping. At the same time, Infinite Wheel was also activated. As a black and white QJ swept over his body, the injuries he suffered from the Sunstrike talisman actually recovered in the blink of an eye. This scene caused the old nascent soul cultivator's pupils to shrink suddenly, and his face changed drastically. How is that possible? Boom! Before he could react, Jiang Chengxuan's robust figure rushed out from the rolling sea of fire. One punch. The golden shield protecting the old nascent soul cultivator collapsed, twisting and distorting rapidly before finally bursting with a loud bang. Eventually, it exploded into countless specks of light. Following that, Jiang Chengxuan's terrifying power was unobstructed. In the horrified and unbelieving gaze of the old nascent soul cultivator, it directly struck into his body with a loud bang. Crash! His body instantly shattered into pieces. But at this moment, a nascent soul with the exact appearance of the old nascent soul cultivator, but only about 3 inches tall and green, appeared. His face was filled with fear. As soon as he appeared, his figure blurred and he was about to escape. However, at this moment, a sword light with 5-colored lightning slashed over from afar. A series of thunder boomed. The green nascent soul, which was only a little over 3 inches tall, had no power to resist. It was directly annihilated by the terrifying 5-colored lightning. At that moment, a surge of spiritual qi suddenly swept through the air. Seeing this, Tang Beisheng, who had been dumbfounded, and the young golden core cultivator were completely stunned. Who could have expected that Jiang Chengxuan and Shen Ruyan, with only golden core cultivation, CPI, D actually behead a genuine nascent soul cultivator in a head-on battle? This was simply too absurd, too unbelievable. At least in their long cultivation careers, they had never heard of a golden core cultivator successfully counterkilling a nascent soul cultivator. Never, not once. Until today. The young golden core cultivator suddenly shivered. However, before he could react, Jiang Chengxuan's demon-suppressing fist technique fiercely landed on his body. For a moment, a miserable scream echoed in the air. The figure of the young golden core cultivator disappeared from where he stood. Brother Jiang Fairy Shen Yu Yu. It was only at this moment that Tang Beisheng truly came back to his senses. He looked at the two of them, unable to utter a complete sentence for a long time. Brother Tang, this is not the place to talk. Let's leave first. Jiang Chengxuan suddenly turned around, giving a cold look in the direction of the void behind him. Tang Beisheng immediately understood and nodded repeatedly. Soon, after retrieving the storage rings from the 2 dead bodies, they quickly entered the territory of the state of Wuhua. At the same time, in the void where Jiang Chengxuan had just looked, several figures appeared. The leader was the supreme elder of Changshuan sect, perfected Lord Huang Hai. Beside him were a few golden core elders of Changshuan sect. However, at this moment, their faces were a little pale. Deep in their eyes, there was a hint of fear. Even perfected Lord Huang Hai's eyes were filled with fear. They had witnessed the scene of Jiang Chengxuan and Shen Ruyan killing the old nascent soul cultivator. The shock this brought to their hearts was obviously immense, especially for perfected Lord Huang Hai. No one understood better than him how difficult it was for a golden core cultivator to counterkill a nascent soul cultivator. Once Jiang Chengxuan condensed his nascent soul, how terrifying would his strength become? Did Changshuan sect really want to become enemies with this couple? Most importantly, at this moment, even if they wanted to stop those two, they probably couldn't do it anymore, unless they used the trump cards of the Changshuan sect. But if they did that, the Changshuan sect would truly have no trump cards left in the future. And who could really guarantee that behind those two, there wouldn't be stronger existences? What if perfected Lord Huang Hai did not dare to imagine anymore? Just at this moment, one of the golden core cultivators beside him stammered, "Should we continue to pursue them?" Upon hearing his words, the other golden core cultivators around him couldn't help but shudder, all casting somewhat uneasy glances at perfected Lord Huang Hai. Perfected Lord Huang Hai sighed and shook his head. Forget it, let's go back first." With that, he did not stay any longer and quickly disappeared. When the golden cores following him saw this, they heaved a sigh of relief and immediately followed perfected Lord Huang Hai. After a while, Jiang Chengxuan and the other two had already entered the territory of the state of Wuhua. Jiang Chengxuan looked at Tang Beisheng and smiled, saying, "Brother Tang, next, we plan to return to the Kangnan region. Do you want to join us?" At this moment, Tang Beisheng, who had calmed down from the previous event, pondered for a moment and then shook his head, saying, "I'm afraid not. I have some important matters to attend to. I'm afraid I can't join you this time." Hearing this, there was a slight disappointment in the hearts of Jiang Chengxuan and Shen Ruyan. But they didn't insist. Jiang Chengxuan smiled and nodded, "In that case, next time." With that, both parties traveled together for a while before parting ways. After bidding farewell to Tang Beisheng, the couple did not linger and quickly arrived at a cultivation city with a teleportation array. Using the teleportation arrays in several cultivation cities, the couple finally left the territory of the state of Wuhua. 5 years later, the couple finally returned to the Kangnan region. After returning to Kangnan region, Jiang Chengxuan and Shen Ruyan first returned to the Jiang family. This time, the couple's journey lasted 15 or 16 years. During their absence, there were some changes in the entire Jiang family. Firstly, Jiang Rendao's cultivation reached the false golden core. At this moment, he had started seclusion, attempting to break through to the golden core. Secondly, Jiang Anren and Liu Lingguang both reached the later stage of Violet Palace. As for Jiang Reni, Jiang Renchuan, and Jiang Yuncheng, their cultivation also reached the mid-stage of Violet Palace. In addition, the Jiang family discovered a clansman with mutant spiritual roots in one of the mortal cities, who was brought to Mount Mystic Tai to be nurtured. Another important matter was Jiang Dongbei, who showed outstanding talent in refining mechanical beasts. Currently, he had begun refining level 3 mechanical beasts. Although he had not succeeded yet, according to his own words, he had made some progress. It was believed that in a few more years, he would be able to successfully refine level 3 mechanical beasts. At that time, the overall strength of the Jiang family would undoubtedly take another step forward. Finally, and most importantly, in recent years, the frequency of demon beast appearances had increased significantly, especially around Mount Ether. There had even been several incidents of demon beasts attacking the mountain. Some of them were even level 4 demon beasts. If it weren't for the presence of Shen Yuanlong, a golden core cultivator, combined with the mountain protection array, the mountain would be in danger of being taken. This situation indicated that the upcoming beast riot, which occurred every 100 years, was imminent. For this reason, the Jade Water Sword Pavilion, the Heavenly Yue sect, and other major golden core forces had inquired about Jiang Chengxuan and Shen Ruyan, asking when they would return. If the upcoming demon beast riot indeed involved level 5 beast emperors, they were not confident about handling the situation without Jiang Chengxuan and Shen Ruyan around. In response to this, Jiang Chengxuan and Shen Ruyan first went to Mount Ether to meet Shen Yuanlong to understand the current situation there. After confirming that there were no major issues in Mount Ether for the time being, they informed the family head Jiang Reni to let him inform various parties. 3 days later, everyone gathered at Mount Nether in the Zheng Nation. At the same time, in a certain deep mountain, the level 5 Golden Wolf Demon Emperor, looking at the other 2 level 5 Demon Emperors standing beneath it, said in a deep voice, "Nine-tailed Civet Demon Emperor, Black Wind Demon Emperor, according to the orders of Lord Beast Sovereign, during this upcoming beast riot, when necessary, you and I may need to take action. During this period, I need to stay here to guard against perfected Lord Chuan Yang. Therefore, if necessary, you too will have to take action in other areas." With that, the eyes of the Golden Wolf turned to Black Wind, saying, "Black Wind, at that time, I hope you can take charge of the area around Kangnan region. If possible, bring the heads of those 2 humans to me." The 2 humans mentioned undoubtedly referred to Jiang Chengxuan and Shen Ruyan. Clearly, it hadn't forgotten the matter of avenging its descendant. Hearing the words of Golden Wolf, Black Wind immediately nodded respectfully. "My lord, don't worry. I will definitely bring the heads of the 2 humans to you." This Black Wind Demon Emperor was a black wolf. Even though it and Nine-tailed Civet Demon Emperor were both level 5 Demon Emperors, they still maintained enough respect in front of Golden Wolf. That was because Golden Wolf was a powerful Demon Emperor who could fight against perfected Lord Chuan Yang. It was naturally not on the same level as ordinary Demon Emperors like the rest. Golden Wolf nodded in satisfaction. Obviously, the demon beasts didn't know the latest information about Jiang Chengxuan and Shen Ruyan. This was expected. Firstly, the demon beast race was relatively lacking in intelligence work. Secondly, the events happening near the state of Wuhua were too far away from them. Not to mention the demon beasts, even the cultivators didn't know what Jiang Chengxuan and his wife had gone through. Finally, and most importantly, even if what the couple had achieved was known to the demon beasts, they might not truly believe it. They would instinctively think that the couple must be exaggerating it intentionally. 3 days later, Mount Nether, the Zheng Nation. When Jiang Chengxuan and Shen Ruyan arrived at the meeting hall, all the higher-ups of the Kangnan Alliance had already gathered. When they saw Jiang Chengxuan and Shen Ruyan coming, their eyes lit up. Immediately, greetings sounded one after another. "Greetings, Alliance Leader." "Greetings, Madam Alliance Leader." It wasn't until Jiang Chengxuan and Shen Ruyan took their seats and gestured for silence that the voices gradually subsided. Jiang Chengxuan looked around at everyone and then slowly spoke. "I summoned you all here, and I believe everyone knows why. Yes, in a few more years, it will be the time for the next Demon Beast riot. The scale of this upcoming Demon Beast riot will inevitably escalate. At that time, a tough battle is inevitable. I hope everyone can be prepared to defend your own territory. If there really is a level 5 demon emperor joining the battle, you don't need to worry too much. At that time, my wife and I will naturally deal with it. Now, tell me the situation on your side." After Jiang Chengxuan finished speaking, everyone began to speak. When it was almost done, they continued to discuss some details. Until several days later, this meeting about the upcoming Demon Beast riot was officially declared over. Back at Mount Mystic Tai, Jiang Chengxuan once again called Jiang Reni and others, instructing them on various matters. After that, he asked Jiang Anren to stay, and together with Shen Ruyan, they provided guidance on her cultivation. Finally, the couple entered seclusion in their cave abode, preparing to see if they could raise their strength a bit before the impending Demon Beast riot. As for breaking through to Nascent Soul, neither Jiang Chengxuan nor Shen Ruyan had such plans. Breaking through to Nascent Soul was no trivial matter. Without sufficient time and preparation, they would not dare to attempt it recklessly. Especially during this period, the imminent Demon Beast riot left them with no time to break through to Nascent Soul. Time passed, and in the blink of an eye, 3 years went by. During these 3 years, Jiang Chengxuan and Shen Ruyan each made considerable progress. Firstly, Jiang Chengxuan's cultivation had finally broken through to the 9th level of the golden core from the 8th level. This instantly increased both the total amount and purity of their dharmic power by about 40% compared to before. Secondly, Shen Ruyan's 5 lightning immortal slayer had finally been successfully upgraded to the level of a true treasure. Combined with the other true treasure of hers, Falling Thunder Heavenly Seal, her overall strength in terms of dharmic power and dharma treasure was no less than that of an ordinary yellow nascent soul cultivator. As Jiang Chengxuan and Shen Ruyan came out of seclusion, the spiritual qi on Mount Mystic Tai suddenly surged. Streams of spiritual qi began to rapidly flow towards the cave abode where Jiang Rendao was in seclusion. Seeing this scene, Jiang Chengxuan and Shen Ruyan looked at each other. The same thought arose in their minds. Rendao is about to form his golden core. Without much delay, the couple quickly arrived at the peak where Jiang Rendao was in seclusion. Soon Jiang Reni, Jiang Renchuan, Jiang Anren, Jiang Yuncheng, and others who had sensed the commotion also gathered on this mountain peak. Great-granduncle. As Jiang Rendao's son, Jiang Yuncheng's expression became somewhat tense. He couldn't help but look at Jiang Chengxuan and Shen Ruyan, asking, "My father?" Jiang Chengxuan nodded at him. "Don't worry, your father should be fine. Based on the current situation, the probability of him successfully condensing the core is about 60%. 60% was already considered very high. Most cultivators started to prepare for this step when they had about 30 to 40% certainty. Jiang Rendao was already twice that. Boom! As time continued, the mountain where Jiang Rendao was in seclusion became increasingly turbulent with spiritual qi. In the end, the dense spiritual qi turned into vast clouds, surging into Jiang Rendao's closed-door cave abode. Time passed bit by bit. Finally, about half a month later, with a strong and distinct aura different from that of Violet Palace, Jiang Rendao, who had successfully formed his golden core, suddenly flew out of his cave with a hearty laugh. Rumble! At the same time, large dark clouds gathered in the sky. Within them, there were dazzling flashes of silver lightning. Jiang Rendao looked up. Without any hesitation, he immediately turned into a stream of light and flew out towards the outskirts of Mount Mystic Tai. Seeing this, the others quickly followed. Except for Jiang Chengxuan and Shen Ruyan, everyone else maintained a safe distance from where the lightning tribulation took place. Forming the core, arrival of the Demon Beast Riot 3. After all, with their strength, they didn't have the ability to resist the aftermath of a golden core tribulation. Rendao, these are protective talismans, take them. At this point, Jiang Chengxuan took out several level 4 protective talismans from his body and threw them to Jiang Rendao. Jiang Rendao caught them, thanked him respectfully, and finally focused all his attention on the tribulation. Rumble! Without waiting for too long, the heavenly tribulation's lightning bolt quickly descended. Jiang Rendao dealt with it quite easily. There were a total of 9 lightning bolts, and except for the last 2, which forced Jiang Rendao to use the protective talismans given by Jiang Chengxuan, he managed to withstand the other 7 on his own. After the tribulation, there was the reward of pure spiritual qi. Jiang Rendao bathed in it, quickly repairing the injuries he had suffered during the tribulation. From this point on, their Jiang family finally had a third golden core cultivator, aside from Jiang Chengxuan and Shen Ruyan. Half a year later, Jiang Rendao had completely consolidated his cultivation. At this time, news came from cultivators in the Shu nation that a large number of demon beasts had suddenly appeared on the outskirts of Mount Sky. Moreover, the quantity was constantly increasing. This situation immediately attracted the attention of all the higher-ups of the Kangnan Alliance. Without delay, several golden core cultivators from the Kangnan Alliance immediately set out for the Shu nation. This group included the head of the Jade Water Sword Pavilion, Hu Dongbei. Everyone descended to the core area of Mount Sky. Looking at the increasing number of demon beasts on the periphery, the expressions of Hu Dongbei and the others became very serious. Roar! At the same time, behind those demon beasts, sudden roars rang out. Following that, several powerful auras, no weaker than those of Hu Dongbei and the others, rushed over. This made the expressions of Hu Dongbei and the others change. It's level 4 demon beasts. Apparently, they did not expect that, just at the beginning of the Beast riot, there would already be level 4 demon beasts appearing. Could be imagined how fierce the upcoming battle would be. For a while, everyone's mood became very heavy. However, this situation had just begun. With the passage of time, when the demon beasts outside Mount Sky officially launched an attack on the mountain, the rest of Kangnan region also began to see many demon beast figures. In just over 10 days, several dozen towns were breached by demon beasts. Millions of people became food for these demon beasts. Almost every day, bad news came. On Mount Mystic Tai, Jiang Chengxuan, looking at the reports continuously coming from various places, the coldness in his eyes became more and more intense. He knew that they couldn't continue fighting like this. If they kept going like this until the end of the demon beast riot, the casualties within the Kangnan Alliance would be heart-wrenching. At that time, if they wanted to recover to their former state, a few hundred years would not be enough. So, Jiang Chengxuan suddenly stood up from his seat. Shen Ruyan, who was next to him, immediately understood and turned to look at him, asking, "Husband, are you going to?" "Yeah." A stern light flashed in Jiang Chengxuan's eyes. He took out a map of the Kangnan region, pointing to several areas on it. "Ruyan, look, there are obvious signs of impending collapse in these areas of Kangnan region." The places Jiang Chengxuan pointed to were the areas that originally belonged to the former Zheng and Shu nations. Although before this, our Kangnan Alliance has dispatched a large number of cultivators to settle there, given how vast the two nations are, it's just a drop in the ocean. The reason we established the Alliance headquarters in the Mount Nether of Zheng Nation was to reorganize the order of these two nations and restore their vitality. But now, if those demon beasts continue to attack, it won't take long for the territories of the two nations to collapse. Our headquarters will also fall. Once the demon beasts firmly establish themselves in the heartland of the two nations, it will be obvious what kind of threat it poses to the remaining three nations. Therefore, at this point, a hint of killing intent appeared on Jiang Chengxuan's face. We must take immediate actions, execute a decapitation operation, and exterminate all demon beasts at or above level 4. However, this will inevitably enrage level 5 demon emperors. At that time, they might also take countermeasures, might end up in advance. Hearing that, Shen Ruyan suddenly realized something. If we can cooperate and eliminate the level 5 demon emperors early, this demon beast riot that poses a great danger to our territory may end early. That's right. Jiang Chengxuan nodded in agreement. As long as this demon beast riot ends early, in 100 years or so, the vitality of the Zheng and Shu may recover significantly. Most importantly, by then, both of us would most likely have entered nascent soul. At that time, even if there are storms, we will have enough strength to face them. At the end of the day, it was all about time. For Jiang Chengxuan and Shen Ruyan, what they need most now is time, and what they lack the most is also time. Therefore, if possible, they must seize every opportunity to gain enough time. Okay, let's take action. Where should we go first? Shen Ruyan nodded immediately. Jiang Chengxuan stared at the map for a while. After a while, he pointed. Shen Ruyan looked closely and found that the place he pointed to was a city called Silver River. This city is the gateway to enter the hinterland of Zheng Nation. The city behind it is currently the largest mortal city, Jiayuan City, Once Silver River City is lost, Jiayuan City will inevitably fall. Most importantly, this city possesses a level 4 spiritual vein. Its importance is self-evident. The couple did not hesitate at all. With a flash, they had already left Mount Mystic Tai and quickly flew towards Silver River City. In Silver River City, the ones currently responsible for guarding the city were Hua Menju of the Jade Water Sword Pavilion and Taoist Kun Su, who was once an independent cultivator and now a senior elder of the Kangnan Alliance. At this moment, their faces were filled with fatigue. It was because the current situation in Silver River City was already very dangerous. Outside the city, there were currently 5 level 4 demon kings, thirsty for human blood. Obviously, they considered Silver River City as one of their main targets. Otherwise, the demon beast wouldn't have sent out 5 level 4 demon kings at once. In addition to numerous level 3 demon beasts, along with countless level 1 and 2 demon beasts, they posed a fatal threat to Silver River City. Especially just now. The demon beasts even obtained an array-breaking bead from somewhere, almost using it to break the protective array of Silver River City. Looking at the light screen of the protective array quickly dimming under the fierce attacks of the 5 level 4 demon beasts and numerous low-level demon beasts, Kun Su and Hua Menju's faces couldn't help but turn very ugly. They even felt a slight vibration under their feet, indicating that the protective array of Silver River City could not hold on for too long. Kun Su suddenly took a deep breath and turned to Hua Menju beside him. Fellow Taoist Hua, when the array is broken later, remember to escape to the northeast. Don't stop. This way, there might still be a chance for survival. Hearing Kun Zut's words, Hua Menju's face suddenly changed. She looked at Kun Su and couldn't help but ask, "Senior Kun Su, are you?" At this moment, Kun Su's expression remained unchanged. He said, "Someone has to stay behind to hold the fort. Your cultivation is not enough. Even if you stay, you may not be able to change the situation. Although I have lived for over 700 years and feel I haven't had enough, it's about time. I owned your Shifu a life. Whatever is owed must be paid back at the right time." At the end, Kun Su's expression became very calm. These words made Hua Menju's face turn slightly pale. At this moment, she felt as if a huge rock was pressing down on her. She wanted to say something but couldn't find the words. But in the end, she said firmly, "If that's the case, I'll stay behind later and hold the line with you, senior." "No." However, Kun Su decisively shook his head. "Our current strength is already insufficient. We can't afford to lose any cultivator at the Golden Core level. If we try to escape together, there won't be any chance to outrun the pursuit of those demon kings. Therefore, at this moment, don't act recklessly. As long as the array is broken, run for your life immediately." At this point, Taoist Kun Su's tone was already a little stern. "If you feel bad, when you have the opportunity in the future, kill a few more demon beasts to avenge me and the countless humans who died at the hands of those beasts." Rumble. As soon as he finished speaking, the ground in the entire Silver River City suddenly shook violently. Following that, everyone heard a series of cracking sounds like ka-ka-ka. Visible to the naked eye, the protective array in the sky above Silver River City was covered with dense cracks. With the renewed attacks from the 5 demon kings outside the city, the protective array above Silver River City could no longer hold on. With a loud bang, the entire protective array instantly turned into scattered light, disappearing in the high sky. Seeing this, fear appeared on the faces of everyone in the city. Kun Su shouted loudly at Hua Menju, who was beside him. "Run!" After saying that, he took the initiative to confront the 5 demon kings. Hua Menju gritted her teeth. Just as she was about to turn around and escape, 2 dazzling lights suddenly flashed over from the distant sky. Seeing those 2 streaks, Hua Menju, who was about to escape, was immediately stunned. But soon, a look of surprise appeared on her face. Its alliance leader Jiang and Fairy Shen. "Huh?" Hearing Hua Menju's words, Kun Su, who was charging towards the 5 demon kings, couldn't help but be slightly shocked. At the same time, the 2 streaks of light had landed in front of Kun Su. Buzz! In the void, 2 extremely bright sword lights suddenly swooshed past. The 5 demon kings were caught off guard. The heads of 2 of them were instantly beheaded by the 2 sword lights. Then, the 2 sword lights turned in midair. Hiss! The bodies of the other 2 demon kings were directly split into halves and fell on the spot. "How is that possible?" The remaining demon king's face was full of horror. It never expected that, while they were about to completely slaughter all the humans in Silver River City, two more enemies would suddenly appear. As soon as they appeared, they killed 4 of its companions in a row. Mind you, those 4 companions were also level 4 demon kings just like itself. An existence comparable to a golden core cultivator of the human race. They were not some Tom, Dick, or Harry. But the result was that, under the swords of these 2 people, those 4 demon kings were just like any other ordinary demon beasts, completely powerless to resist, and were ruthlessly slaughtered. How terrifying was the strength of these 2. The remaining demon king's eyes were full of fear. But in the next moment, one of the 2 suddenly raised the sword in his hand again. In an instant, countless dazzling sword lights filled its entire field of vision. Then there was nothing. Its last thought was whether this person was the nascent soul of the human race. Watching the 5 level 4 demon kings being easily killed by Jiang Chengxuan and Shen Ruyan, Kun Su and Hua Menju were both stunned for a moment. In fact, neither did they expect that Jiang Chengxuan and Shen Ruyan's attacks would be so sharp. How is it? Are you both okay? At this moment, Jiang Chengxuan turned to Kun Su and Hua Menju. At present, the situation for our human race is critical, so we won't stay here for long. Take advantage of this to repair the protective array. While speaking, he and Shen Ruyan had already slashed out a few sword beams, sweeping over the demon beast horde. In an instant, the originally dense demon beast horde disappeared by more than half. The remaining ones that were fortunate enough not to die all stood there stiffly, their bodies rigid, their eyes dull, obviously completely frightened. Seeing this, Kun Su and Hua Menju suddenly came back to their senses. They immediately took the initiative to start repairing the protective array. Jiang Chengxuan and Shen Ruyan, as they said, did not stay here for long. After they commanded the crowd to repair the protective array, they once again flew away, disappearing into the distant sky. Watching the couple's figures disappear quickly, the expressions of Kun Su and Hua Menju became serious. Alliance leader and his wife seemed to want to reverse the situation with their own strength. Kun Su suddenly spoke. Hua Menju also realized this and couldn't help but express her worry. Senior Kun Su, do you think Alliance leader and his wife can make it? I don't know. However, Kun Su shook his head. I only know that if Alliance leader and his wife continue to slaughter demon kings like this, it's very likely that the level 5 demon emperor will enter the battlefield early. Hua Menju was shocked at first, then she reacted, and her worry became more intense. If level 5 demon emperor really enters early, what should we do? Will something happen to the alliance leader and the others? Kun Su turned to look at her and suddenly said, Are you very concerned about them? Or rather, are you very concerned about our alliance leader? These words immediately made Hua Menju's pretty face blush. Then she lowered her eyes. Senior Kun Su, I don't know what you're talking about. Isn't it normal to care about them? Haha. Daoist Kun Su laughed. He said meaningfully, If they continue to do this, it will indeed attract a level 5 demon emperor. However, that might just be what they want. I'm a senior Kun Su, you mean? Maybe I'm just guessing. Daoist Kun Su shook his head. At this moment, he stopped talking and looked at the distant sky. A few days later, the 4 level 4 demon kings in the myriad wind forest of the Yun nation were all killed by Jiang Chengxuan and Shen Ruyan. After that, the 6 level 4 demon kings outside the Mount Sky were also killed by Jiang Chengxuan and Shen Ruyan. Including the ones in Silver River City, in less than 10 days, 15 level 4 demon kings had died in the hands of Jiang Chengxuan and Shen Ruyan. This was fatal to the demon beasts. And this was not the end. 2 days later, in the northernmost area of Yan Nation, another 5 level 4 demon kings fell at the hands of Jiang Chengxuan and Shen Ruyan. With this, the total number reached a substantial 20, significantly impacting the foundation of the demonic forces. At this moment, about tens of thousands of kilometers away from Mount Ether, a level 5 demon emperor, Black Wind, was looking at Mount Ether tens of thousands of kilometers away with a cold expression. Beside it were 10 level 4 demon kings. At this moment, it had already received news and knew that in the past few days, 20 demon kings had died. This filled its heart with anger. Looking at Mount Ether, its eyes revealed an unmistakable and chilling murderous intent. Jiang Chengxuan, Shen Ruyan, you really deserve to die. Frightened Black Wind. 20 demon kings. That was a total of 20 demon kings, including the 10 demon kings following it. It was almost the whole number of demon kings in this area. But just like that, a significant portion of this number was wiped out. This blow to their demonic forces was too great. It was not just a surface wound. No wonder Black Wind was so angry at this moment. Without hesitating, Black Wind personally led the remaining 10 demon kings, preparing to attack Mount Ether. Using this place as a base, they planned to annihilate the entire Liang nation. Even if it angered perfected Lord Chuan Yang, Black Wind would still cleanse the entire Kangnan region with blood. As Black Wind led the 10 demon kings and a horde of demon beasts towards Mount Ether, Shen Yuanlong, Jiang Rendao, Gu Yuefeng and Wen Shujin stationed on Mount Ether sensed an incredibly fierce and fearsome aura. This aura could it be? Gu Yuefeng's expression changed involuntarily. Next to him, Wen Shujin seemed to have thought of something, her beautiful eyes instantly contracting. Shen Yuanlong and Jiang Rendao, although not completely sure about their speculations, felt a tremendous pressure from the overwhelming aura in the distance. They were slightly terrified. Shen Yuanlong turned to Gu Yuefeng, his expression unusually serious as he asked, "Senior Gu, have you noticed something?" Gu Yuefeng nodded with a heavy expression. "If I'm not mistaken, the one coming this time should be their demon emperor." Demon emperor. Hearing these words, Shen Yuanlong and Jiang Rendao's expressions changed drastically. However, they quickly reacted. Indeed, only a demon emperor could possess such a despair-inducing aura. At this moment, the hearts of the 4 people present were shrouded in a layer of gloom. Simultaneously in the distance, a demonic wind arose. The 10 demonic kings led by Black Wind, along with a horde of demonic beasts, had arrived outside the protective array of Mount Ether. Staring at Mount Ether, Black Wind's eyes erupted with an incredibly cold killing intent. Meanwhile, Shen Yuanlong, Jiang Rendao, Gu Yuefeng, and Wen Shujin shuddered upon seeing that it was really a demon emperor. What was more, there were 10 level 4 demon kings accompanying the demon emperor. How were they supposed to resist that? It had to be known that, with their strength combined, even without the level 5 demon emperor, it was already very difficult for them to resist the 10 level 4 demon kings. It seemed that Jiang Chengxuan's actions had truly infuriated the demonic faction. This is really tit for tat. Before, they had enjoyed watching Jiang Chengxuan slaughter those demon kings. Now they found themselves in a helpless situation. The gap in strength between the two sides was simply too vast. There was no comparability at all, and naturally, the talk of resistance was non-existent. They simply couldn't hold their ground. As Shen Yuanlong and Jiang Rendao were starting to resign to their fate, suddenly, 2 streaks of light darted across the sky. Seeing those 2 streaks of light, the expressions of Shen Yuanlong and the others couldn't help but change. As for Black Wind and the other demon kings, their eyes glinted with hostility. Especially Black Wind, its eyes revealed a touch of fierceness. It uttered a few words. Jiang Chengxuan Shen Ruyan. Boom! In an instant, 2 streaks of light landed on the top of Mount Ether. It was Jiang Chengxuan and Shen Ruyan. After them, many streaks of light flashed over from afar. There were a total of 8. They were golden core cultivators who had been transferred from all over Kangnan region. This scene made the eyes of Black Wind and the other demon kings slightly narrow. Especially for some demon kings, a sense of ominous foreboding arose instinctively. Hello. It was only at this moment that Jiang Chengxuan's voice slowly resounded. "We've finally seen you, Black Wind." His gaze turned to Black Wind with a smile on his face, but his eyes revealed a chilling killing intent. "Do you know how much trouble your ancestor, Golden Wolf, caused us back then? But it's good that it actually sent you to the Kangnan region. In that case, my wife and I can collect some interest in advance from you. We will refine some level 5 true treasure using your blood, flesh, bones, demonic core, claws, and teeth." Frightened Black Wind too. For their demonic faction, this was undoubtedly the greatest insult. Black Wind's anger surged uncontrollably. In its wolf-like eyes, a terrifying look flashed. Its entire body transformed in an instant, expanding to the size of a colossal black mountain. No flashy moves, just brute force. Black Wind immediately raised a claw and fiercely struck towards Jiang Chengxuan and Shen Ruyan. Boom! How terrifying was the enraged strike of a level 5 demon emperor. Crack! In almost an instant, an ear-piercing sound came from the mountain protecting array on mountain protecting array. Even the shield on it flickered violently. There were faint signs of instability. However, at this moment, a five-colored brilliance suddenly appeared in midair. There was a whoosh. This five-colored light ignored all defenses and instantly reached Black Wind. In an instant, the formidable aura of Black Wind, including the power of its descending claw, was inexplicably weakened by 30%. Black Wind also keenly felt a sudden weakness in its spirit, flesh, strength, and even the circulation of its demonic power. It felt as if it had just fought an enemy of the same level for 3 days and nights. It was exhausted beyond measure. How come? It was astonished. Crack. Just as it was astonished, a radiant sword light, tinged with five-colored lightning, rushed towards the descending wolf claw. There was a loud bang. The sword light collided with the wolf claw, creating a massive mushroom cloud in the sky. The surrounding light continuously distorted. Boom, boom, boom. The ground shook. The colossal body of Black Wind suddenly created several huge craters on the ground with each step, like missiles striking the earth, leaving dozens of meters wide craters and lifting up smoke hundreds of meters high. In an instant, the sky became hazy. How is that possible? However, what shocked Black Wind the most at this moment was the strength displayed by the other party. They actually blocked its attack and repelled it head-on. It should be noted that it was a dignified level 5 demon emperor, comparable to the existence of a nascent soul cultivator. And these two, they were only at the 9th level of the golden core. How could they possibly resist it head-on? At this moment, Black Wind couldn't help but take a deep breath. It seemed to have understood why Jiang Chengxuan and Shen Ruyan had acted so arrogantly. It seemed that they dared to challenge it directly because they had the strength to do so. However, the gap between level 4 and level 5 couldn't be made up for by just external objects like Dharma treasures. Clearly, at this moment, it had recognized that the sword Shen Ruyan just slashed out was a level 5 true treasure. Boom! The Black Wind grew larger as it blew, expanding to a size of 3,000 jang, nearly 10,000 meters. That terrifying force surged towards Jiang Chengxuan, Shen Ruyan, and Mount Ether behind them. Seeing this scene, Jiang Chengxuan's eyes narrowed. Without saying a word, he instantly activated demon-slaying talent. Then he opened his hands. Too pale but internally, red flames appeared in his palms. He rubbed these two flames together. Buzz, buzz, buzz. In an instant, the terrifying high temperature burned the surrounding air, emitting a buzzing sound. Some nearby plants, wood, earth, and stones even burst into flames. At the same time, a brutal, fierce, and terrifying fireball accompanied by a roar was thrown out by Jiang Chengxuan. Roaring and spinning, it rushed directly into the massive Black Wind. In an instant, the originally rapidly advancing Black Wind suddenly shook. Then it shook again, as if an electrical current was not flowing smoothly. On the surface of the Black Wind, occasional flashes of white light appeared. When it was about 10 miles away from Jiang Chengxuan and Shen Ruyan, the massive Black Wind suddenly swelled. Boom! Like the explosion of countless nuclear bombs. Red and white flames, mixed with bursts of Black Wind, rushed into the sky and produced a massive explosion. The sky was completely filled with red, white, and black three-colored brilliance. Everyone, whether cultivators or demonic beasts at this moment, subconsciously withdrew their divine senses. They dared not casually probe the terrifying power. With their golden core divine sense, any inadvertent exploration could harm their primordial spirits. Swoosh! But at this moment, a golden sword light suddenly flashed through the center of the explosion. Immediately following that, a deafening roar echoed in everyone's ears. When everything gradually quieted down, everyone was shocked to find that Black Wind, which was about 1,000 feet in size just now, had now shrunk to about 100. Moreover, its body had many additional wounds, oozing streams of fresh blood. Most importantly, its enormous wolf claw was nowhere to be seen. The cut was smooth and glossy, as if it had been completely erased from existence. What is going on? What happened just now? Everyone couldn't help but feel puzzled. Especially the 10 demon kings who had come with it. At this moment, each of their hearts was filled with shock. No one knew better than them how powerful Black Wind was. But even such a powerful level 5 demon emperor had suffered such severe injuries. This Before they could understand what was going on, the colossal body of Black Wind suddenly flashed. The next moment, ignoring everything, its massive body turned into a black wind, rushing towards the distance as it tried to escape. If someone could see its eyes at this moment, they would find that the eyes of Black Wind were filled with endless terror. Yes, Black Wind was in fear, in horror. Because just now, it clearly felt that it was just a hair's breadth away from. If it hadn't been willing to sacrifice its claw at a critical moment, what was cut off just now might not have been its claws but its head. For the demonic race, a powerful physical body was one of their greatest sources of strength. Once the body was destroyed, not only would their strength drop by 99% instantly, but their future would also be cut off. Most importantly, in the current situation, if its physical body were destroyed, then dying would be its only fate. After all, those two people were not ordinary golden core cultivators. Both of them had already reached the nascent soul level in terms of combat strength. Moreover, it was not the kind of nascent soul that had just advanced. It was no match at all. Run! At this moment, Black Wind no longer cared about anything else. Its mind now had only one thought, which was to escape from the sight of those two. And it needed to leave the Canyon region as quickly as possible to inform the Golden Wolf about the news of those two. Taking advantage of the chaos caused by the demon beast riot, when human perfected lords were mostly preoccupied and not paying attention, there was a very good chance to eliminate these two enormous threats. Otherwise, once this demon beast riot ended, if they wanted to deal with these two, it would be very difficult to find a suitable opportunity. After all, when facing enemies like demon beasts, the human perfected lords were relatively united. It was unlikely and impossible for them to watch the demon beasts attack two golden cores with such great potential. What's more, what terrified Black Wind the most was that the current strength of the couple was only at the level of golden core. Yet, they already possessed such formidable power. Then, when they broke through to the nascent soul in the future, how terrifying would their strength become? Perhaps these two could become the second perfected Lord Chuan Yang. Or even stronger. And this was something that the demon beasts did not want to see no matter what. Just as Black Wind was pondering over these thoughts in its heart, a huge rock phantom suddenly flashed behind Jiang Chengxuan. Following that, Jiang Chengxuan's pursuit speed suddenly skyrocketed. Swoosh, swoosh. In just a moment, he had already arrived near Black Wind. Black Wind, who was desperately trying to escape, suddenly sensed the danger behind it, causing its heart to tremble. How could his speed? Boom! Before it could react, behind Jiang Chengxuan, the phantoms of a dragon and an elephant flashed once again. In an instant, his figure soared, reaching a height of 50 feet in the blink of an eye. Compared to Black Wind's towering body, he looked relatively small. However, the aura emanating from Jiang Chengxuan at this moment made Black Wind unable to remain calm. Level 5, this is the power of level 5. Yo. Black Wind's eyes were filled with shock. But just at this moment, a loud sound echoed in the void. Immediately after, Jiang Chengxuan's sturdy body turned into an afterimage. Boom! A dazzling and enormous fist suddenly enlarged in the pupils of Black Wind. Roar! Sensing a deadly threat, Black Wind truly went all out this time. It let out a furious roar. The next moment, its body soared once again. Crack! In the air, a sudden explosion resounded. Its massive wolf tail suddenly transformed into a steel whip, fiercely colliding with Jiang Chengxuan's fist. Rumble! Like meteorites colliding. At the point of contact between the fist and the tail, a distorted and enormous shockwave burst forth. Rustle! As if a hurricane of 100 levels passed through. The trees, rocks, mountains, rivers, everything below was greatly affected. The giant waves were lifted hundreds of meters into the sky. The shattered dust spread for dozens of miles. From a distance, it looked like a scene from the apocalypse. Dong! However, in the midst of the billowing dust, a giant halberd spanning hundreds of feet suddenly descended towards the head of Black Wind. And at this moment, Black Wind had not yet recovered from the recent collision. Seeing the enormous halberd descending, its eyes constricted with fear. It opened its mouth and spit out a green shield that suddenly expanded. There was a loud bang. The green shield shrank and was sent flying away. The power of Deep Earth halberd remained undiminished. Boom! In the end, it fell heavily on the head of Black Wind. The giant wolf head, like a rotten watermelon, was smashed in the blink of an eye. Soon, a demonic infant, resembling a baby, flew out from the headless wolf corpse. However, what awaited it was a sword radiance carrying 5-colored lightning. Arg! A miserable scream suddenly echoed in the air. Shenruyan's 5 lightning immortal slayer had taken away the last bit of life from Black Wind. This scene also left the 10 demon kings in the distance completely dumbfounded. Their demon emperor was actually killed just like that. What should they do? Facing a group of human golden core cultivators, these demon kings had completely lost any will to fight. What a joke! Even a dignified level 5 demon emperor died in the other party's hands. If they attacked, other than dying for nothing, there would be no second outcome. In an instant, the 10 demon kings seemed to have a tacit understanding and immediately fled separately. However, in the current situation, how could they possibly escape? Soon, the 12 golden core cultivators present began to pursue separately. With the help of Jiang Chengxuan and Shen Ruyan, 9 out of the 10 demon kings soon fell under their hands. The remaining one, a golden ape, seeing that it was impossible to escape without saying a word, immediately knelt down towards Jiang Chengxuan and Shen Ruyan, kowtowing continuously. Forgive me, 2 seniors. Please spare me, seniors. I was forced to come here, unable to resist. Please spare me this time on account that I've never harmed anyone. Clearly, the actions of this golden ape were unexpected by everyone. A high and mighty demon king actually knelt down and begged for mercy. Moreover, it was from the notoriously arrogant golden ape demon clan. Everyone couldn't help but look at Jiang Chengxuan and Shen Ruyan. At this moment, everyone respected the couple from the bottom of their hearts. A spiritual light suddenly appeared in Jiang Chengxuan's eyes. After a while, he nodded at Shen Ruyan. It didn't lie. This demon has never harmed anyone since it started cultivating. Hearing this, Shen Ruyan and the others couldn't help but look a little strange. To be honest, this was the first time they had seen such a demon king. This fellow was indeed unique. How did it cultivate to level 4 then? However, no one doubted Jiang Chengxuan's words. Since he had inspected and confirmed that this demon beast had not harmed anyone, then it must be the case. Demon kings. Shen Ruyan is preparing to condense the nascent soul and upgrade her spiritual root too. Editor Henyi Translations. At this point, Shen Ruyan deliberately furrowed her brows. She said in a calm tone, even if it hasn't harmed anyone, keeping it is still a hidden danger. It's better to kill it. As soon as Shen Ruyan said this, the body of the golden ape immediately shivered, and it hurriedly bowed towards the two again, kowtowing rapidly. Seniors, spare me. Seniors, spare me. I promise I absolutely won't have any rebellious thoughts and I won't be a threat to you. Is that so? Half-smile appeared on Jiang Chengxuan's face. But we still don't believe you. Besides, what's the point of keeping you? If we kill it, we can take your core to refine pills and dharma treasures. I think what my wife said makes sense. Instead of keeping you, it's better. I'm useful. I'm useful. Before Jiang Chengxuan could finish speaking, the golden demon ape shouted. In fear, I can guard the door for you. I can be a mount. In short, I'll do anything. As long as you don't kill me, I'll do anything. I'm willing to open my sea of consciousness and let you impose restrictions on me, making me your servant. Please don't kill me. Towards the end of his plea, the golden ape demon started crying pitifully. Such a cowardly demon king was never heard of. Seeing its reaction, everyone was dumbfounded. Even Jiang Chengxuan and Shen Ruyan looked at each other, somewhat speechless. This demon king was really frightened to the point of having no dignity. Jiang Chengxuan said, in that case, open your sea of consciousness and let me plant a primordial spirit restriction on you. Hearing Jiang Chengxuan's words, the golden ape was not shocked but happy. It nodded repeatedly. All right, master, I'll do it now. As soon as it finished speaking, the golden ape did not hesitate at all. In front of everyone, it opened its own sea of consciousness. Seeing this, Jiang Chengxuan didn't hesitate either. He immediately imposed a restriction in its consciousness. With this restriction, as long as the golden ape dared to betray him or have any bad thoughts, Jiang Chengxuan would be able to sense it immediately. And with just a thought, he could instantly annihilate this level 4 demon king. In the following time, Jiang Chengxuan and the others didn't idle. They quickly started arranging the cultivators to besiege the remaining demon beasts. At the same time, they began to send messages to various parties, asking everyone to try to reclaim the lost territories. Without the presence of the level 5 demon emperor, and with the elimination of most of the level 4 demon kings, the demon beast riot was no longer a threat. After all, for high-level cultivators, the number of low-level demon beasts didn't have much significance. That was indeed the case. About a few months later, the chaos caused by the demon beasts that swept through the entire Canaan region was completely quelled by Jiang Chengxuan and the others. After handling all the follow-up matters related to this demon beast knot, some more months passed. On this day, Jiang Chengxuan was using his dharmic power to nourish his 3 intrinsic dharma treasures: the golden void sword, deep earth halberd, and the yin-yang divine water. Jade. At this moment, Shen Ruyan found him and informed him that she had sensed the opportunity to break through to the nascent soul. She planned to enter seclusion to attempt a breakthrough. This made Jiang Chengxuan delighted. He knew that advancing to nascent soul was a crucial bottleneck in cultivation. It required sufficient resources, opportunities, and favorable conditions, all of which were indispensable. Right now, Shen Ruyan had accumulated enough cultivation. There was no lack of resources. With the supreme-grade golden core she had condensed, as long as she sensed the arrival of the opportunity to condense her nascent soul, she was more than 80% confident that she could reach heaven nascent soul without any external help. Coupled with the origin chi, even if she tried to condense the legendary flawless nascent soul, she had more than a 50% chance of success. The only problem was the condition. The only problem was the favorable conditions. They didn't have a level 5 spiritual vein. The best way to nurture a level 5 spiritual vein was to try to nurture a level 4 spiritual root to level 5. Coincidentally, the water apricot tree on Mount Mystic Tai had already reached the peak of level 4. With the resources accumulated by the Jiang family over the years and the various treasures obtained in this demon beast riot, there was a good chance of successfully cultivating the water apricot tree to level 5. Ding! At this moment, a system notification suddenly sounded in Jiang Chengxuan's mind. An achievement mission has been issued. Host, please complete cultivating the spiritual root 1,000 times. Jiang Chengxuan could almost envision that after completing this achievement mission, the water apricot tree on Mount Mystic Tai would smoothly advance to level 5. Jiang Chengxuan said to Shen Ruyan, "Ruyan, since you have already sensed the breakthrough opportunity, don't waste this chance. Go into seclusion. During this period, I will certainly elevate our family's spiritual vein to level 5. Although she didn't know why her husband had such confidence, Shen Ruyan had always trusted Jiang Chengxuan unconditionally. She smiled and nodded, saying, "All right, then I'll leave it to you, husband." After saying that, Shen Ruyan didn't hesitate any longer and went to her own cave abode to begin seclusion, preparing to break through to the nascent soul realm. At the same time, Jiang Chengxuan gathered a large number of spiritual materials from the family in various places. He went to the back mountain, where the water apricot tree was planted, and started cultivating the spiritual root in his own way. Days passed like this. When Jiang Chengxuan completed cultivating the water apricot tree, 3 years passed. At this moment, the system notification sounded in his mind again. "Congratulations, host. You have achieved cultivating the spiritual root 1,000 times. You have obtained a wisp of purple chi and a heaven and earth lightning seed." The wisp of purple chi was used to advance the grade of spiritual root. However, the heaven and earth lightning seed was quite interesting. According to the system's description, this could be used to absorb lightning tribulation. The stronger the lightning tribulation absorbed at once, the higher the grade of the spiritual root the seed would grow into. That's right. This was a seed of the heaven and earth spiritual root. However, its planting method was rather special. If you wanted to plant it, you had to bathe in the lightning tribulation. It would absorb the power of a single tribulation lightning, thereby unlocking its vitality. In other words, this seed could also be used as a treasure for ascending tribulation. Not bad, not bad. Jiang Chengxuan had already figured out that if nothing unexpected happened, he planned to use this seed during his nascent soul tribulation, and used it as an opportunity to unlock its vitality. At that moment, Jiang Chengxuan did not waste any time. Looking at the water apricot tree in front of him, Jiang Chengxuan did not hesitate anymore. He immediately took out the wisp of purple chi and used it on the water apricot tree. Buzz! After receiving the wisp of purple chi, the water apricot tree, which was stuck at the peak of level 4, immediately broke through the level restriction. In an instant, endless azure light burst forth from the water apricot tree. Rustle. The branches swayed. The entire tree suddenly exuded extremely vigorous vitality. In just a moment, the water apricot tree leaped from the peak of level 4 to level 5. Boom! As if stimulated by the promotion of the water apricot tree, a large amount of spiritual chi spouted from the previously level 4 spiritual vein on Mount Mystic Tai at this moment. The entire mountain trembled slightly. All the Jiang family cultivators on the mountain felt the change in spiritual chi, especially in the area of the back mountain. The dense azure light emanating from it made everyone realize that Mount Mystic Tai was undergoing some kind of transformation. Buzz. At this moment, spiritual light suddenly rose from several locations of spiritual springs on Mount Mystic Tai. Then, the spiritual chi on the entire mountain began to rise rapidly. In just a moment, the density and purity of spiritual chi here leaped from level 4 to level 5. Everyone who felt this change couldn't help but feel shocked. Regardless of who it was, an inexplicable joy surged in their hearts. Especially the core members of the Jiang family like Jiang Reni and Jiang Rendo. No one knew better than them what it meant for their spiritual vein to reach level 5, especially at this moment when their ancestor Shen Ruyan was attempting a breakthrough to nascent soul. A level 5 spiritual vein could undoubtedly increase the success rate of her breakthrough. Swoosh swoosh. Almost instinctively, several streaks of light landed near the location where Jiang Chengxuan was on the back mountain. When they saw the water apricot tree that had already advanced to level 5, the faces of everyone revealed excitement once again. Granduncle, this is. Jiang Rendo was the first to ask Jiang Chengxuan. Yeah. Jiang Chengxuan smiled and nodded. Our Jiang family's water apricot tree has now advanced to level 5, and the massive increase in spiritual chi pushed the level 4 spiritual vein on Mount Mystic Tai to level 5. Hearing Jiang Chengxuan's words, Jiang Rendo and the others all suddenly realized. At this moment, Jiang Anren asked, Shifu, what difference does a level 5 water apricot tree make compared to before? This was a question that everyone present wanted to know. For a moment, everyone's gaze landed on Jiang Chengxuan. Jiang Chengxuan glanced at Jiang Anren and smiled. The biggest difference is that the water apricot fruits it bears afterward can be used by nascent soul cultivators. Consuming one is equivalent to 200 years of painstaking cultivation. However, these water apricot fruits can only be consumed once every 300 years. After 3 consumptions, there will be no more effects that powerful. Jiang Anren, Jiang Rendo, Jiang Reni, and others were somewhat surprised. They all knew that the resources needed by cultivators would become even more massive after breaking through to the nascent soul realm. However, in the current cultivation world, the resources that could be provided to nascent soul cultivators were already quite limited. Especially so for spiritual objects that could directly increase a nascent soul cultivator's dharmic power, they were extremely rare. Such objects, like the level 5 water apricot tree, was simply impossible to guard without powerful nascent soul ancestors in the family. Fortunately, Jiang Chengxuan and Shen Ruyan could be said to have relatively powerful nascent soul combat strength, especially when the two of them joined forces. Not to mention that Shen Ruyan was already trying to break through to the nascent soul realm. As long as she could successfully break through, with her accumulation and foundation, she should be comparable to a 4th-level nascent soul cultivator. In that case, it shouldn't be a problem to protect this water apricot tree. Buzz. Just when everyone was thinking about this, an extremely powerful aura suddenly burst out from the direction of Shen Ruyan's cave abode. Immediately after, the surrounding spiritual chi began to surge. Waves of spiritual chi, like vortexes, began to madly rush toward Shen Ruyan's cave abode. In just a moment, the sky above Shen Ruyan's cave abode was already shrouded by clouds of spiritual chi, like liquid. This is. Swoosh swoosh. Almost in an instant, including Jiang Chengxuan, everyone arrived nearby. Looking at the phenomenon in front of them, everyone's faces revealed expressions of anticipation. Jiang Anren turned her head to look at Jiang Chengxuan and asked with a hint of hope, Shifu, is Shifu Ruyan starting to break through? Hearing her question, Jiang Reni, Jiang Rendo, and others also looked at Jiang Chengxuan, full of concern. Jiang Chengxuan nodded with a solemn expression. That's right, your Shifu Ruyan is beginning to break through. At this moment, Jiang Chengxuan's expression suddenly became unprecedentedly solemn. He looked at Jiang Reni and Jiang Rendao and said in a low voice, "Get someone to activate the mountain protecting array immediately and monitor the area within 1,000 miles of Mount Mystic Tai. Right, let that golden ape patrol the surroundings too. If you find anything unusual, you have to tell me immediately." Out of seclusion, reaching nascent soul 2. This was to avoid any possible accidents, nipping all potential hazards in the bud. Yes. Jiang Reni and Jiang Rendao obviously understood the seriousness of the situation after hearing Jiang Chengxuan's orders. They immediately showed solemn expressions and accepted the task. Jiang Anren also intended to go along, but Jiang Chengxuan stopped her with a shout. "Anren, you stay here and accompany me." In fact, he wanted Jiang Anren to stay and observe Shen Ruyan's breakthrough process. Although at her current cultivation level she couldn't comprehend many things, for a Violet Palace cultivator, this was a rare opportunity. Jiang Anren nodded at Jiang Chengxuan. Jiang Chengxuan reached out and patted Jiang Anren's head. Then he sat cross-legged, personally guarding Shen Ruyan. Time passed bit by bit. In the blink of an eye, 3 years went by. On this day, Jiang Chengxuan, who was sitting, suddenly looked towards the direction of Shen Ruyan's cave abode. Jiang Anren noticed the movement and looked at Jiang Chengxuan, asking, "Shifu, did something happen?" Jiang Chengxuan nodded. "Your Shifu Ruyan is about to emerge from seclusion." "Really?" Jiang Anren was stunned. Next moment, an immensely majestic and awe-inspiring aura burst out from Shen Ruyan's cave. Under the influence of this aura, all the cultivators and creatures on Mount Mystic Tai were awestruck. For a moment the pressure caused the flow of their dharmic power and true essence to stagnate. Jiang Chengxuan waved his hand. Instantly the pressure was lifted, and Jiang Anren felt her body loosen. The flow of dharmic power within her body returned to normal. But the shock on her face did not diminish. Did Shifu Ruyan successfully break through to nascent soul? It's so terrifying. In fact, many others felt the same way as Jiang Anren at this moment. People like Jiang Reni, Jiang Rendao, Liu Linglong, and others all harbored a sense of anticipation. Boom! At this moment, a brilliant light soared into the sky from the direction of Shen Ruyan's cave. Then a graceful figure, dressed in white like a celestial being, appeared in front of everyone. It was Shen Ruyan. Her beautiful eyes landed on Jiang Chengxuan. A gentle smile appeared at the corner of her mouth. "Husband." Jiang Chengxuan immediately flew up to Shen Ruyan, smiling at her. "Congratulations, wife, on successfully reaching the nascent soul. From now on, ascending immortality is within reach." Upon hearing Jiang Chengxuan's words, Shen Ruyan gave him a slightly amused look. Then her beautiful eyes turned towards the sky. "My heavenly tribulation is coming soon." Saying this, she looked back at Jiang Chengxuan. "Next, I'm afraid I'll have to trouble you to continue protecting me and assist in facing the tribulation." "Of course." Jiang Chengxuan nodded and then asked with a serious expression, "How is it? Shouldn't be a big problem, right?" Shen Ruyan hesitated for a moment and then nodded. "I think so." "Really? Then take this first." Saying that, Jiang Chengxuan handed her the heaven and earth lightning seed he obtained from the system. Shen Ruyan took it curiously. Jiang Chengxuan said, "This is the heaven and earth lightning seed. It can help you withstand one tribulation lightning. Although you are confident about overcoming this heavenly tribulation, it's better to be safe. Take this item as a backup method." After handing it over, Jiang Chengxuan briefly explained what the heaven and earth lightning seed was for. After listening, Shen Ruyan felt warmth in her heart. She was well aware that such a treasure was also crucial for Jiang Chengxuan, who would soon break through to nascent soul. But at this moment, he gave it to her. Just as Shen Ruyan was about to say something more, her pretty face suddenly changed. Immediately after, the sky where she was suddenly darkened. Along with a series of rumbling roars, distorted silver lightning suddenly appeared in the dark clouds. A terrifying aura instantly spread over the entire Mount Mystic Tai. Everyone looked at the tribulation clouds in the sky with horrified expressions. The aura was so terrifying that their souls trembled uncontrollably. Even Jiang Rendao, a golden core cultivator, was no exception. Shen Ruyan immediately flew out of Mount Mystic Tai. In the blink of an eye, he had already flown 1,000 miles. Jiang Chengxuan asked Jiang Anren, Jiang Reni, and others to stay put while he chased after Shen Ruyan. After flying for about 100 miles, Shen Ruyan stopped on a mountain peak. Watching the increasingly dense tribulation clouds in the sky, Jiang Chengxuan's expression became somewhat solemn. Nascent soul tribulation was nothing like golden core tribulation. Whether in terms of duration or power, nascent soul tribulation was far superior. It was unknown whether Shen Ruyan had condensed a heaven nascent soul or the legendary flawless nascent soul. But based on his understanding of Shen Ruyan, there was more than a 90% chance that the nascent soul she condensed this time would be a flawless nascent soul. Otherwise, with her temperament, if she hadn't condensed a flawless nascent soul, she would not have come out of seclusion. If she came out of seclusion, it basically meant that it was a flawless nascent soul. However, it was unknown whether the tribulation for a flawless nascent soul would be as unpredictable as when the supreme grade golden core. Rumble. As Jiang Chengxuan was pondering over these thoughts, the tribulation lightning in the sky had already descended. Blinding lightning tore through the darkness, causing everyone who witnessed this scene to instinctively feel fear. It was truly terrifying. Just the remnants of the power would be enough to reduce them to ashes. Even Jiang Rendao, who had experienced the golden core tribulation, was no exception. However, Shen Ruyan, situated at the center of the tribulation, faced the first lightning with ease. She blocked the first tribulation lightning effortlessly. Then came the second, the third. Shen Ruyan handled them with ease. By the time the fourth lightning arrived, its power was noticeably several times stronger than the previous three. This time, Shen Ruyan summoned several defensive treasures. With a series of thunderous roars, the spiritual light of these level 4 defensive treasures instantly dimmed. Then they all fell down. Fortunately, she successfully blocked the fourth tribulation lightning. The power of the fifth and sixth lightning bolts were significantly higher. This time, Shen Ruyan had to use her divine powers. Purple lightning flame saber. Rumble. The sky above was filled with endless interwoven lightning. All kinds of energy wreaked havoc. The terrifying aura spread over an area of several thousand miles. Luckily, they didn't pose any substantial threat to Shen Ruyan. It wasn't until after a long time. A booming sound echoed in the sky. Compared to the previous 6 tribulation lightning, the 7th tribulation lightning, which was many times more terrifying, finally descended. Seeing that tribulation lightning, the expressions of everyone changed drastically. Their hearts trembled. Even Jiang Chengxuan's face showed a somewhat solemn expression. He could clearly feel that the power of this tribulation lightning was comparable to an attack from a newly advanced nascent soul. This indicated that the remaining 2 tribulation lightning might possess even greater power. Fortunately, with Shen Ruyan's current strength, blocking this tribulation lightning should be no problem. That was indeed the case. She unleashed her intrinsic treasure, the falling thunder heavenly seal. Countless thunderbolts collided with the descending tribulation lightning, instantly annihilating its power in midair. Boom! As if angered by Shen Ruyan's falling thunder heavenly seal, a more violent roar resounded above the clouds. There was a crackling sound. A lightning bolt, more than twice the size of the previous one, suddenly struck down towards Shen Ruyan. This time, the power of the tribulation lightning was already equivalent to a full-force attack from an early-stage nascent soul cultivator. It could be imagined that the final tribulation lightning would most likely surpass the strength of a mid-stage nascent soul cultivator. Clang! At this moment, a clear sword cry echoed in the sky. Shen Ruyan was forced to use the 5 lightning immortal slayer. With a dazzling sword light, she dispersed the tribulation lightning that could make any nascent soul cultivator wary. Watching all of this unfold, all the people in the distance couldn't help but reveal shocked expressions. However, just at this moment, a terrifying aura suddenly poured down from the sky. Strands of lightning, tinged with purple, boiled and surged within. That is, Jiang Chengxuan's pupils constricted. From the clouds, he clearly sensed a hint of danger. This 9th tribulation lightning might not be as simple as it seemed. And indeed, with a deafening roar, a gigantic lightning, surrounded by a hint of purple, descended with a destructive aura towards Shen Ruyan. This time, the power of the tribulation lightning had surpassed the early-stage nascent soul, reaching the level of a mid-stage nascent soul cultivator. At this moment, even a mid-stage nascent soul cultivator facing it might end up seriously injured. Ken Ruyan. A trace of worry appeared in Jiang Chengxuan's eyes. But at this moment, Shen Ruyan suddenly took a deep breath. Then a clear lightning mark appeared on her forehead. It was the true lightning divine seal. This mark could significantly enhance the power of her divine power and dharmic power. Especially when using lightning element divine powers, it could produce tremendous amplification. At the same time, Shen Ruyan's graceful figure suddenly blurred. In the next moment, her entire body transformed into lightning. Let me see how powerful this tribulation lightning of yours really is. With this thought in mind, Shen Ruyan suddenly raised her hand. Crackle! In an instant, dozens or even hundreds of lightning bolts of various colors converged and were fiercely thrown at the descending tribulation lightning. That was not all. Shen Ruyan suddenly tilted backward. Squeak! Then in her right hand, a lightning spear with 5 colors, blue, red, yellow, white, and blue, was condensed. The spear was dozens of feet long, emitting an intimidating aura capable of making anyone's heart tremble. Swoosh, swoosh! As she forcefully threw the spear, in the sky, a long black mark appeared. Strands of lightning of various colors continuously jumped in midair. Boom! Rumble! Suddenly, a huge explosion erupted in the high sky. Everyone's eyes were filled with endless and infinite brilliance. Even though they were thousands of meters away, their skin and pores all felt a tingling sensation. It was as if countless electric currents passed through their bodies. No, this is not enough. Jiang Chengxuan's eyes suddenly narrowed. Despite Shen Ruyan's attack, it was still not enough to completely block the last tribulation lightning. As expected, with a howl, that lightning, tinged with a hint of purple, broke through all the divine powers Shen Ruyan had cast. Although its size was much smaller than before, its power did not decrease much. Shen Ruyan had anticipated this. She instantly formed a seal with both hands. There was a buzz. A 5-colored radiance suddenly appeared in the void. Then, a lightning different from all the previous lightnings struck towards the final tribulation lightning. It was her strongest divine power, the 5 elements divine lightning. Rumble! Once again, a loud explosion erupted in the high sky. This time, the collision between the two was obviously more intense. Distorted light and shadows continually ravaged, squeezed, and devoured each other. Slash! Seizing this opportunity, Shen Ruyan once again released her 5 lightning immortal slayer. A clang sounded. In the air, large clusters of lightning were instantly shattered. After some time, all the lightning and sword chi nullified each other and disappeared without a trace. Shen Ruyan, who had transformed into the thunder body, immediately returned to her original appearance. Flawless nascent soul, secret of my previous life, thunder matriarch heavenly lord too. However, at this moment, her delicate face showed obvious paleness. At the corner of her mouth, there was a trace of bright red blood. It was clear that she had suffered considerable injuries. Fortunately, at this moment, the dark clouds in the sky gradually dispersed. Following that, drops of pure essence like divine nectar fell. They landed on Shen Ruyan's injured body, quickly repairing the wounds. Taking advantage of this opportunity, Shen Ruyan quickly circulated her cultivation technique, attempting to consolidate her current cultivation foundation. After absorbing all these pure essences, her cultivation was completely stabilized, steadily stopping at the first level of nascent soul. Congratulations, wife. At this moment, Jiang Chengxuan's figure suddenly appeared in front of Shen Ruyan, smiling and congratulating her. Shen Ruyan smiled and nodded at Jiang Chengxuan. Then she took out the heaven and earth lightning seed from her body and handed it back to Jiang Chengxuan, saying, "Husband, take this back. I don't need it anymore." Seeing this, Jiang Chengxuan did not refuse and immediately accepted it. At this moment, Jiang Reni, Jiang Rendao, and others from a distance flew over together. They all came to congratulate Shen Ruyan on successfully transcending the tribulation and achieving nascent soul. Shen Ruyan responded with smiles and rewarded them accordingly. When the time was about right, the couple did not linger and quickly returned to the Xuanming peak of Mount Mystic Tai. At this moment, news about Shen Ruyan breaking through to nascent soul quickly spread throughout Mount Mystic Tai. Everyone's mood was extremely excited. As descendants of the Jiang family, No one understood better than them how significant it was for their ancestors to achieve nascent soul, because this heralded that the Jiang family had officially become a nascent soul, immortal family from now on. The benefits were not just as simple as they appeared on the surface, and would often manifest invisibly. For example, people's attitudes toward you when you go out. And when you attend various auctions and visit major markets, you will receive care and convenience, both intentionally and unintentionally. While the Jiang family and even the Shen family cultivators were joyfully celebrating Shen Ruyan's achievement of nascent soul, on the Qunaming Peak, Shen Ruyan explained to Jiang Chengxuan the result of her seclusion over the past few years. It was not beyond Jiang Chengxuan's expectations. Now Shen Ruyan had truly condensed the legendary flawless nascent soul, laying the foundation for her future Dao path. According to Shen Ruyan, the grade of nascent soul not only affected the power of a nascent soul cultivator's dharmic power and divine powers, but also determined their future potential. Generally speaking, yellow-grade nascent soul cultivators could never break through to mid-stage in their lifetime. Although black-grade nascent soul cultivators might have a chance to break through to mid-stage, breaking through to late stage would be extremely difficult, if not impossible. Only earth-grade nascent soul cultivators had a greater chance of breaking through to late stage, and there was even a faint possibility of advancing to soul formation realm. As for heaven-grade nascent soul cultivators, they were on a completely different level. As long as they didn't die, breaking through to the soul formation realm was a sure thing. However, achieving heaven-grade nascent soul was too difficult. Don't be fooled by the fact that the connection of heaven and earth would occur every 60 years. Those who could eventually obtain the origin chi were very few and far between. This was also why there were so few heaven-grade nascent souls in the current cultivation world. As for the flawless nascent soul that Shen Ruyan condensed, it was not an exaggeration to say that, besides her, it had been a very long time since someone like her had appeared. Legend has it that this type of nascent soul has the true qualification for achieving immortality. As long as she didn't act recklessly, cultivating to soul formation was almost guaranteed. Sending to the higher world after achieving soul formation was also a matter of course. However, in the current cultivation world, wanting to ascend to the higher world was probably. At this point, Shen Ruyan's face darkened. Jiang Chengxuan noticed Shen Ruyan's strangeness and immediately asked, "Is there a problem with the ascension passageway to the upper world?" At the sudden mention of this, Shen Ruyan's expression was first surprised, and she instinctively asked, "How did you know?" With that, she smiled bitterly and nodded, saying, "It seems that there are some things you have already guessed. Yes, there are indeed some problems with the ascension passageway to the upper world. In my previous life, I almost died because of this. Ruyan, can you tell me more specifically about your past life?" Jiang Chengxuan suddenly looked at Shen Ruyan and reached out to embrace her into his arms. Shen Ruyan did not resist and let Jiang Chengxuan hold her. After a while, she sighed softly and began to speak to Jiang Chengxuan. "Husband, at this point, it's time to tell you some things." Pausing slightly, Shen Ruyan then asked, "I believe that by now you should have guessed my identity in my past life, right?" Jiang Chengxuan nodded. "If I'm not mistaken, your identity in your past life should be that of the Thunder Matriarch Heavenly Lord, right? After all, among female cultivators who are proficient in lightning techniques and have reached the conditions for ascension, there seems to be only one." "Hee, I can't hide anything from you." Shen Ruyan laughed in Jiang Chengxuan's arms. Then she began to talk about some things about her past life. Just as Jiang Chengxuan had expected, in her past life, Shen Ruyan's talent and aptitude were also exceptionally outstanding. Before the age of 400, she had condensed her nascent soul. By the age of 1,000, she had achieved the pinnacle of this cultivation world, the soul formation realm, and was acclaimed as Thunder Matriarch Heavenly Lord. After becoming the Thunder Matriarch Heavenly Lord, Shen Ruyan took on the responsibility of protecting the human race in this world, just like the other Heavenly Lords. In the battle against the demon beasts, Shen Ruyan displayed her extraordinary power. From the early stage to late stage, she killed at least 5 level 6 demon sovereigns. This was considered an extraordinary achievement. It's important to note that after reaching the soul formation realm, cultivators gained an understanding of the spatial rules of this world. Any soul formation heavenly lords could traverse the void. In such a situation, defeating or injuring opponents was easy, but killing them was not so simple. However, at that time, Shen Ruyan did it. Finally, Shen Ruyan sensed that her chance for ascension had arrived. Despite some reluctance to leave the cultivation world that had nurtured her, she still had to go because immorality was always cultivators' end goal. But before leaving, she left many things for herself in case anything went wrong. They were stored in the secret spaces they had been to in the past. At the same time, as a gratitude to this cultivation world, Shen Ruyan merged everything except her intrinsic Dharma treasure into this world, which gave birth to 2 level 6 spiritual veins. After dealing with the karma, Shen Ruyan bid farewell to her fellow cultivators and embarked alone on the path of ascension. However, what she did not expect was that this ascension almost became the calamity that extinguished her body and soul. According to Shen Ruyan, when she entered the ascension passageway, she suddenly encountered an attack from a gigantic palm. With her cultivation and strength at that time, facing the attack of that gigantic palm, she actually couldn't resist at all. In just a short time, her physical body completely collapsed. At that moment, she immediately realized that whether it was ascending or escaping, she could no longer do it. The only way was to self-destruct and leave a trace of spirit for reincarnation. If lucky, there might be a day to recover memories. Shen Ruyan did not hesitate at all and immediately chose to self-destruct for reincarnation. However, before she entered reincarnation, she wanted to make an effort to understand what was wrong with the ascension passageway of the 9 essences immortal cultivation world. So she burned all the treasures on her body, including her primordial spirit. Finally, at the last moment, she saw a faint outline. It was a majestic figure tens of thousands of feet tall, surrounded by endless rosy light. It was as if he were the center of the entire universe. All stars and brilliance revolved around him. And beside him, many cultivators sat upright, their cultivation not inferior to him. However, what shocked her the most, even a bit frightened, was that all the cultivators sitting beside him were actually seniors who had ascended from 9 essences immortal cultivation world. Speaking to this point, Shen Ruyan's expression had become extremely serious. Yang Chengxuan at this time obviously also realized the seriousness of the problem. He looked at Shen Ruyan and asked, "Ruyan, do you know why those seniors who had ascended appeared by that person's side? Could it be that they have all?" Shen Ruyan looked at Jiang Chengxuan and nodded heavily. "You guessed it right, those people may have become puppets of that person. Because according to my later deductions and years of contemplation, those seniors who had ascended should have encountered the same thing as me. However, they were not as lucky as me, not as decisive as me, and eventually ended up with their primordial spirit being controlled, becoming puppets of the other party. Moreover, I clearly saw at that time that the array formed by them sitting side by side seemed to be the array specifically targeting the origin of the world's will. An array specifically targeting the origin of the world's will." Jiang Chengxuan was stunned. What does the other party want to do? Could it be that he wants to use these soul formation cultivators to gradually erode the origin of the 9 essences immortal cultivation world's will? If that's the case, it's really terrifying. If the world's will was eroded, with the strength shown by the other party, he was perfectly able to control it. From then on, all creatures living in the 9 essences immortal cultivation world would become his servants. As if sensing Jiang Chengxuan's thoughts, Shen Ruyan nodded and said, "Husband, I have every reason to believe that the various demonic attacks that have appeared in our world are related to the other party. There is something you probably are not aware of yet, which is that every 1,200 years, a demonic calamity will befall the 9 essences immortal cultivation world." Demonic calamity. Jiang Chengxuan was shocked again. Shen Ruyan nodded and said, "That's right. In the eyes of ordinary cultivators, and even many nascent soul-perfected lords, the origin of this demonic calamity has always been puzzling. For example, the 7 Lotuses demonic sect that wreaked havoc in this world a long time ago. But in the eyes of us cultivators who once stood at the pinnacle of this world, we knew for a fact that this kind of demonic calamity is coming from outside the world. Because from an unknown time, every 1,200 years, the earth membrane and the world barrier of this world will be in an extremely weak state. The other party must have taken advantage of this opportunity to throw many demonic cultivators from outside into our 9 essences immortal cultivation world, causing chaos, and using this to absorb the vitality of the dead. There is such a thing. This was something Jiang Chengxuan had no knowledge of before. He never expected that, hidden in the seemingly prosperous Nine Essences immortal cultivation world, there was such a huge crisis. Not to mention the terrifying and mysterious figure outside the world. Just this demonic calamity that occurred every 1,200 years made Jiang Chengxuan feel tremendous pressure. He knew very well that the former Seven Lotuses demonic sect had caused great damage to the vitality of the Nine Essences immortal cultivation world. In that war, even the pinnacle strength of this world, soul formation heavenly lords, fell more than one. If such a demonic calamity repeated itself, with his and Shen Ruyan's current strength, would they be able to survive it? This was something he had no confidence in at all. Compared to this, the demon beast riot seemed to be innocuous. Also, regarding this matter that concerned the survival of the world, did the other soul formation heavenly lords know about it? What about the demons? If the level 6 demon sovereigns were aware of this hidden crisis, why didn't they join forces with the human cultivators? Instead, they continued to harass the human race relentlessly. Thinking about this, Jiang Chengxuan couldn't help but ask Shen Ruyan again. However, this time, Shen Ruyan shook her head slightly. As far as I know, when I ascended, it seemed that everyone was not very clear about the true situation in the outer world. There were only vague speculations. Over these years, I can't be sure if their understanding of this matter has grown deeper. As for the demons, at this point, Shen Ruyan's beautiful eyes narrowed slightly. Before I wasn't sure, but now I have some speculations. It's very possible that the demons have long known about the true situation of the outer world. The reason they initiate the demon beast riot every 100 years and occasionally collude with those demonic cultivators, I suspect they might have already pledged allegiance to the other side. Of course, these are just my speculations and cannot be confirmed. But based on my insights and understanding from 2 lifetimes, there is a probability of over 60% that I'm right. At this moment, Jiang Chengxuan's mood suddenly became extremely heavy. If what Shen Ruyan said was true, especially about the terrifying existence in the outer world, then would their world have a chance of surviving all this? Suddenly, Jiang Chengxuan felt a soft hand gently placed on his shoulder. Shen Ruyan had already stood up from his embrace, looking at him with an unprecedented serious expression. Husband, regardless of what the future holds, we must continue on. Do our best. At least this way, neither you nor I will have regrets. Upon hearing Shen Ruyan's words, Jiang Chengxuan's heart skipped a beat. At this moment, he finally truly understood why, at the beginning of becoming Tao companions, no matter what, Shen Ruyan refused to explain these things to him. Even after they both broke through to the golden core, Shen Ruyan had no intention of telling him about these matters. It was only today, after their strength reached the nascent soul, that Shen Ruyan revealed these to him. Fortunately, she chose to do this. Otherwise, when he was still weak and vulnerable, if he learned the truth about the world, Jiang Chengxuan couldn't guarantee that his Tao heart wouldn't collapse. At this moment, he looked at Shen Ruyan and nodded heavily. Yes, wife, I understand. Indeed. No matter how the future unfolds, they only need to do what they can do at present. Even if they worry about it, it will be of no use and meaning. It will only add unnecessary anxiety. Time passed in a flash. After a few more years. At this time, the demon beast riot in various parts of the northern border had completely ended. Due to the unprecedented scale of this demon beast riot, the losses on the human side far exceeded those of the past. According to the information Jiang Chengxuan and Shen Ruyan received, the number of nascent soul-perfected lords who fell among the human cultivators exceeded a dozen. This was something unimaginable in previous years. The number of cultivators who died in the demon beast riot, including those in the Golden Core and Violet Palace, was several times or even dozens of times more than in the past. Large areas of human territories were occupied by demon beasts. Billions of mortals became their food. All the cultivators in the Kangnan region were grateful that they had Jiang Chengxuan and Shen Ruyan. Not only did they kill the level 5 demon emperor, but they also stopped the demon beast riot several years in advance. Otherwise, they couldn't imagine what the outcome would be for the Kangnan region that didn't have a nascent soul-perfected lord presiding over it. It might have ended up like those small regions or states without nascent soul-perfected lords, completely collapsing under the fangs of those demon beasts. That would be truly terrifying. At this moment, in the cave abode of Jiang Chengxuan, on Mount Mystic Tai of the Jiang family. After years of dedicated cultivation, Jiang Chengxuan had reached the pinnacle of the golden core. At this point, he could clearly feel that he was a step away from entering nascent soul. The feeling was as if he only needed a gentle push, and he could easily cross the threshold. However, he did not rush to do so. Instead, he continued to refine his dharmic power, contemplating the changes in his Tao. Finally, after a few more years had passed, Jiang Chengxuan suddenly felt that his opportunity to break through had arrived. Therefore, he no longer deliberately delayed. The divine-grade golden core inside him trembled slightly. The dharmic power in his body immediately surged like a river. Buzz, buzz, buzz. With the circulation of the 5 elements true technique, Jiang Chengxuan's body suddenly displayed white, blue, red, green, and yellow colors, which then merged into one and rotated like a wheel. A mysterious and powerful aura, accompanied by extremely strong pressure, suddenly erupted from Jiang Chengxuan's body. It could be clearly seen that the surface of Jiang Chengxuan's golden core now had protrusions appearing. This was the most crucial stage of forming the nascent soul. Contrary to what many people thought, cultivators do not need to shatter their original golden core to condense the nascent soul. Instead, on the basis of the original golden core, their golden core grows limbs and facial features like a newly hatched chick. This was the correct way to condense the nascent soul. There was no overly difficult process. Jiang Chengxuan's breakthrough to nascent soul this time was extremely smooth. In just a moment, distinct facial features appeared on the surface of his divine-grade golden core, followed by hands and feet. Finally, the entire golden core transformed into a miniature figure exactly resembling Jiang Chengxuan, about half a foot in size. He opened his mouth and inhaled. In an instant, numerous 5-element spiritual objects that Jiang Chengxuan had prepared in advance were all sucked into his body. A stream of rich spiritual qi, like liquid, quickly flowed into his body. It could be clearly seen that the facial features of Jiang Chengxuan's nascent soul became clearer, and its size began to gradually increase. However, this was not enough. Jiang Chengxuan flipped his hand. The origin qi was taken out and directly refined into his body. As he refined the origin qi, Jiang Chengxuan could clearly feel that his nascent soul was starting a new round of transformation. On the surface of his body, white, blue, red, green, and yellow lights appeared. And these lights gradually merged into his body. Boom! Unconsciously, Jiang Chengxuan felt as if his consciousness had entered a world filled with only 5-colored brilliance. All kinds of comprehension about the 5 elements' intent kept entering his mind. In the outside world, the Jiang family cultivators, who were busy with their own matters, suddenly saw a 5-colored light rise from the direction of Chunaming Peak. Accompanied by this, there were whirlwinds of rich spiritual qi madly converging towards that direction. This made Jiang Reni, Jiang Rendao, and other leading figures of the Jiang family immediately realize something. Joy and anticipation appeared on their faces. Without any hesitation, the group of elders led by Jiang Reni and Jiang Rendao swiftly flew towards Chunaming Peak. Upon their arrival at Chunaming Peak, they found that Shen Ruyan had been waiting there for a long time. The group of people did not dare to be negligent and immediately approached to pay their respects. After a while, Yang Anren, a disciple of Shen Ruyan, took the initiative to step forward and asked, "Shifu Ruyan is Shifu Chengxuan. Reward, passive divine power, instant cast of 5-element spells." Upon hearing Jiang Anren's question, everyone present looked at Shen Ruyan with expectant eyes. Shen Ruyan nodded and replied, "Yes, your Shifu has started condensing the nascent soul. Make sure no one approaches this area. Implement a blockade around Mount Mystic Tai as well." "Yes," everyone responded with joyful expressions. At the same time, in Jiang Chengxuan's seclusion cave abode, a 5-colored halo appeared behind Jiang Chengxuan's nascent soul. Endless Taoist sounds seemed to drift out from within. Together with Jiang Chengxuan, at this moment, they were enveloped in a mysterious Tao rhyme. Gradually, Jiang Chengxuan's aura became more ethereal. In the end, inside the cave abode, various elements spontaneously emerged. Metal, wood, water, fire, and earth. They were endless, restraining each other, complementing each other. Ultimately, a state of extreme balance was achieved, causing Jiang Chengxuan's entire being, and his nascent soul to burst forth with a brilliant five-colored radiance. Boom! At this moment, an abundance of flowers, spiritual springs, and fragrances suddenly surged out of his cave abode. Faintly, a five-colored radiant aureole appeared above Jiang Chengxuan's head. This was the innate divine power he spontaneously developed after breaking through to nascent soul. It was called the Five Elements Aureole, possessing incredibly powerful defensive capabilities. Not only could it resist attacks from divine powers and magical treasures, but it could also withstand attacks on the primordial spirit. It was a first-class defensive divine power. The nascent soul he condensed was not the heaven nascent soul or the legendary flawless nascent soul. Instead, it was a type of nascent soul that existed only in the legends of the upper world, the zenith nascent soul. Compared to the legendary flawless nascent soul, it was more than a level stronger. In fact, even Jiang Chengxuan himself didn't expect that he would be able to condense a zenith nascent soul. This type of nascent soul was said to have a 100% chance of achieving immortality as long as it did not perish halfway. All of this was inseparable from his earlier achievement of the divine-grade golden core. As expected, to go further on the path of cultivation, it was essential not to neglect the foundation in the early stages. While Jiang Chengxuan was pondering over these thoughts, a familiar system sound rang in his mind. Ding! Congratulations to the host for achieving the nascent soul, gaining a talent +1, and obtaining the passive divine power, instant cast of 5 element spells. The former was self-explanatory, and as for the latter, it meant exactly what it said. Jiang Chengxuan could instantly cast any 5 element spells he mastered, whether it was of level 5 or below, without the need for hand seals. There would be no delay, making it truly instantaneous with just a thought. It seemed necessary to collect some 5 element spells to master in the future. Only then could he unleash the maximum power of this passive divine power. Thinking about it, Jiang Chengxuan didn't stay much longer in his cave abode. Soon they arrived outside. Shen Ruyan and others, who were waiting anxiously, saw him coming out of his cave abode and couldn't help but show joy on their faces. However, soon after, the expressions of everyone changed. Without any warning, the sky had darkened, and silver lightning seemed to dance in the sky. Jiang Chengxuan first nodded to Shen Ruyan and others. Then he looked up at the sky. Not lingering for long, he flew towards the outskirts of Mount Mystic Tai. After a while, he stopped in midair tens of thousands of miles away from Mount Mystic Tai. Rumble! At the same time, the sky suddenly rumbled with tremendous thunderous roars. Suddenly, without any forewarning, a massive tribulation lightning descended, directly striking towards Jiang Chengxuan. What? Seeing this scene from a distance, Jiang Reni and others were stunned. Normally, tribulation lightning wouldn't descend so quickly. There would be some time for the lightning to brew. Shen Ruyan's heavenly tribulation was like that before. However, when it came to Jiang Chengxuan, the heavenly tribulation seemed to change. This was also something Jiang Chengxuan had not expected. However, he did not care much. He raised his hand into a fist. Level 5 power surged within him. With a loud bang, a ferocious fist shadow violently collided with the first tribulation lightning. The fist shadow and the lightning disappeared at the same time. Then came the second, the third tribulation lightning. All were annihilated by Jiang Chengxuan with a single punch. Including the fourth and even the fifth tribulation lightning, they were all resolved with a punch. As if provoked by how effortlessly Jiang Chengxuan handled the heavenly tribulation. By the time the sixth tribulation lightning descended, its power had noticeably increased several times. Compared to the power of the seventh tribulation lightning Shen Ruyan faced, it seemed even stronger. Reward passive divine power, instant cast of 5. Element spells 2. However, for the current Jiang Chengxuan, this was still not a threat. The only difference was that the number of punches he threw increased from 1 to 2. Rumble! At this moment within the tribulation clouds in the sky, a deafening roar suddenly erupted, accompanied by a dazzling light that tore through the darkness. A tribulation lightning, several times larger than the previous 6, crashed down towards Jiang Chengxuan. Only at this moment did Jiang Chengxuan's expression become more serious. Behind him, the illusory images of a dragon and an elephant flashed and disappeared. Following that, his figure suddenly began to rise. 100 feet, 200 feet, 300 feet, 400 feet, 500 feet. It reached 500 feet before coming to a halt. A terrifying aura, like a primitive, fierce beast, suddenly burst from his body. Taking a deep breath, he suddenly clenched his fist and threw it towards the tribulation lightning descending from above. Dong! As if a heavy hammer had fallen into a calm lake. The entire void rippled with waves. The tribulation lightning in the sky was abruptly halted by Jiang Chengxuan's formidable power. Then, like a shattered mirror, it gradually cracked into pieces. Finally, with a resounding explosion, it completely shattered into scattered dots of light. Far away, Jiang Reni, Jiang Rendo, and the others couldn't help but heave a sigh of relief. Their originally tense hearts also relaxed a little. But at this moment, Shen Ruyan was not as optimistic. A trace of seriousness appeared on her face, because she noticed something others didn't. In that collision, the surface of Jiang Chengxuan's fist was charred. Most importantly, Jiang Chengxuan's aura in her divine sense had dropped significantly. There was a problem with that tribulation lightning. In fact, at this moment, Jiang Chengxuan also noticed this. Half of the power within his body was inexplicably wiped away. This was the first time he had encountered such a situation during heavenly tribulation. The tribulation lightning just now. Jiang Chengxuan's pupils slightly contracted. Because in the next moment, another tribulation lightning, much larger than before, descended towards him. Moreover, this time, he clearly sensed an extraordinary power within that tribulation lightning. It was a power that could erase the cultivator's internal strength out of thin air, similar to his five-colored divine light. Since that was the case, a glint flashed in Jiang Chengxuan's eyes. In the next moment, five-colored light radiated from behind him: blue, red, yellow, white, and blue. It was his intrinsic divine power, the five-colored divine light. As the five-colored divine light brushed past, the power of the eighth tribulation lightning decreased by 30% on its original basis. Clang! Jiang Chengxuan suddenly pulled out a green glowing long saber from the void and fiercely slashed towards the eighth tribulation lightning. Crack! With a brilliant green saber light passing through, the sky suddenly erupted with terrifying roars. Shockwaves like nuclear explosions instantly spread in all directions. Jiang Chengxuan's entire person kept retreating in midair. Just as he was about to fall to the ground, at this moment, Jiang Chengxuan suddenly roared. In the next moment, a surge of overwhelming power erupted. The images of a dragon and an elephant reappeared behind him. Demon-suppressing fist technique. Boom! The fierce eighth tribulation lightning was finally shattered by Jiang Chengxuan with a single punch. Rustle! As a large number of lightning bolts swept past, the ground below was instantly charred. In the distance, Jiang Reni, Jiang Rendao, and the others, who originally had full confidence in their granduncle and felt that he would definitely be able to transcend the tribulation this time, lost their calm. Anyone who wasn't blind could tell what had happened just now. The power of that tribulation lightning was abnormal. Its power was at least 10 times stronger than the previous one. Unconsciously, their gazes turned towards Shen Ruyan. Jiang Anren was a bit nervous and asked, "Shifu Ruyan, Shifu Chengxuan won't be in any danger, right?" Shen Ruyan remained silent for a moment. But in the end, she firmly nodded. "Don't worry, your Shifu will be fine." Although she said this, the expression on Shen Ruyan's face never relaxed. This made Jiang Anren and others realize something, and they were on tenterhooks. Boom! It was at this moment that another deafening roar resounded in the sky. Immediately after, a silver and red lightning bolt suddenly struck towards Jiang Chengxuan. In an instant, even Jiang Chengxuan's expression changed slightly. This aura was too familiar to him. He had distinctly felt it during his Golden Core tribulation. It was the aura of destruction. Damn it! Jiang Chengxuan did not hesitate. On his palms, ruby flame was burning fiercely. Then the two clusters of white and red flames were violently merged together by him. In an instant, a force of mutual compression, distortion, entanglement, and explosion surged out from that merged white and red flame. "This time, let me see how powerful you really are." As Jiang Chengxuan threw out the merged flame, it left a trail of long black char in the sky. When the merged flame collided head-on with the ninth tribulation lightning, blinding light filled the sky. Even Jiang Reni and Jiang Anren, who were tens of thousands of miles away, felt a stabbing pain in their eyes. It could be imagined how terrifying the power was at the core of the collision between the flame and the tribulation lightning. At this moment, time seemed to have stopped. It wasn't until a long time later that a distant and earth-shattering roar echoed. The entire sky was filled with endless flames and lightning. However, Jiang Chengxuan, who was below, suddenly changed his expression again. Damn it! In the center of the collision between the two forces, a silver and red lightning, carrying the same aura of destruction, struck towards him again. His yin and yang divine flame was actually unable to annihilate the power of the ninth tribulation lightning. This thought quickly flashed across Jiang Chengxuan's mind. Then, an aureola of 5 colors rose above his head. It was the intrinsic divine power he comprehended when breaking through to nascent soul. 5 elements aureola. Rumble. The lightning struck the 5 elements aureola, causing dazzling light to burst forth. Terrifying explosions erupted on the 5 elements aureola, turning into shockwaves that rapidly spread in all directions before turning into giant mushroom clouds. Visibly, the brilliance of the aureola, like an imperial crown, quickly dimmed. Jiang Chengxuan didn't dare to be careless. Immediately, he extracted all the stored dharmic power from his intrinsic dharma treasure, the yin-yang divine water Jade, and infused it all into the 5 elements aureola. Gradually, the light on the aureola that had already dimmed became resplendent again. The thunderous roars kept echoing. The light on the aureola began to tremble again. Far away, Shen Ruyan subconsciously clenched her fists. Jiang Reni, Jiang Anren, and others all looked at him with nervous expressions. Finally, after some time passed again, the 5 elements aureola of Jiang Chengxuan and the tribulation lightning in the sky finally both dissipated.